Welcome everybody to the live stream. This is Wes from Thinking Critical, and we got a couple of new panelists with us today. We're going to talk about Batman and the recent firing of Tom King. So welcome to the channel, Dylan. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being on. Also, we got fellow YouTuber Perch. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Hey, thanks for having me on this morning.
Yeah, I really appreciate both of you guys coming on. You know, it was a big news, started all kinds of buzz once the Bleeding Cool rumor dropped that Tom King was being removed from Batman at issue 85. Most people took it as some type of firing or demotion. But I think now that some of the facts are coming out, it's definitely not the case. Dylan, what was your initial reaction to the news about Tom King being removed?
It didn't make sense considering he just talked about how everything got approved by AT&T, WB, and DC, and how he's going to be doing this big, huge changing event for Batman at issue 75, and it all got approved. It didn't make sense. And I started looking at the rumors. I saw a bunch of rumors saying that he's going to get kicked off for and finish his run in either a new series or he's going to take over Catwoman for 10 issues. So I didn't see them just cutting it off and not letting him do his thing, especially since he had been talking about his whole 100-issue arc since issue 50. That was the whole payoff because no one liked issue 50. Even his fans didn't like issue 50. So he's like, oh, guys, just wait. It's a 100-issue arc, not a 50-issue arc. So I knew he wasn't just going to be done there, but as much as I wish he was.
Yeah, so Perch, you're a comic shop owner. What was the reaction? Were people excited? Were they pissed? Was it a little bit of both?
I think only a couple of people saw it. I mean, the interesting thing about the store, and I think we have another retailer joining us, is that people don't come in and say, "Hey, I read something on Bleeding Cool." That doesn't really happen in a store. You know, they're getting their news from. I'm not sure where they're getting their news, so I didn't get a lot of people saying anything. But the couple who did said, "Hey," kind of immediately, "Hey, so this is a scam, right?" Because they remember the last couple scams, and they're like, "Is this really going to end? Doesn't seem like this is right." And I'm like, "No, I think it's a scam too." And it's so the people coming in the store were just, buying the comics, and if anything, were upset because the people who come in the store, that is my top selling title, and it's not close. That is by far the top selling title. The only person who beats it from time to time is Snyder's series when he's doing Batman. That will beat it. So Batman Who Laughs is kind of right up there with it. But if anything, there was complete skepticism and, if anything, a little bit of worry because they liked the title. Like you, I'm not a big fan of it, but, it sells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it definitely sells. It's the highest selling ongoing series in all of comics. And nothing really, not even Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man really touches it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it didn't really make sense. Pele, I know you're in a different demo than Perch. What were your customers thinking when they heard the news?
Regarding King being removed?
Yes.
Most people didn't care, but probably I would say I'd say 1 in 3 that pull the title were like, what the hell? And of the vast majority of those guys were like, celebrate good times, come on. So that was they really, 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 really viciously hate King. As far as the people that were around for the Grant Morrison days, that really enjoy the detective side of Batman that aren't masochists. They really they're happy about it. So
yeah. So we were just talking about this before we went on air, Pele. So really, what DC has done is made your job kind of easy. They put King on an event book, and then Batman gets a new writer. So people upset about King being fired, you can say he's on an event book, and the people that are really excited can be like, yeah, he's not on Batman anymore. Is that how you're going to sell it, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I know people are going, oh my God, we're not happy King is still writing. Well, calm down. I'm happy he's off Batman. That's the number one selling DC title by like 20 miles. So, the only thing I sell that really crushes it, and I wouldn't say it crushes it, but it beats it consistently now, is Immortal Hulk. So it does now, and that's what's funny. It would have never ever happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But it tells you how much that things have slipped now, that a title like Hulk can beat Batman. Oh, what? When did this happen? Yeah, it does now. It beats it by about 20 to 30% every single week. So, or every single time it's out.
But you push that title personally pretty hard in your shop because you think it's for your audience.
I do push Immortal Hulk hard. It's every time it's out, it's the issue of the week. So it's the comic of the week, and it gets a special amount of pushing from me, and I've probably given away the most free copies of it, because I do like a drawing thing like that, and several people get a free copy of Immortal Hulk when it comes out.
So one of the things that was, I wrote my article and I put it in my video, is that Tom King was intentionally working the industry or even trolling the readers by having it leaked that he was fired. Perch, why do you think he went that route?
Well, he's done it before. I mean, I think that it's been successful for him with a couple different instances. The bodyguard story over the wedding, it helped actually generate some controversy and it got people worked up. So that whole kind of story that spun out, and he's done it a few times on social media. He did it with the Vision a little bit, that he wasn't going to be completing his run. It was too controversial, and Marvel was going to pull it, and that got some attention. That was older, but he does these things, and I think it's kind of his way of playing with social media and using it to his advantage, doing some marketing, and it works. Every time he does it, he gets a ton of attention, and the book gets some interest. I've said on I think some video at one point that it's short-sighted, and that at some point it will turn on him. People will just tune out, stop believing it, and this may be the one. I do have some people who were messaging me at the time, pretty upset, who are Tom King fans, who are pretty upset at the news and frustrated. And I said, just hang on, it'll be okay. And when it came out, no, he's got this new series and actually looks like he's in a better position. They're like, well, that was really cruel to do then. He made all of us kind of just feel bad for him and think, that's not funny in these times to be talking about losing your job and all the rest. So I think he does it because it works, but I think it's a fading trick. I think it's a dangerous one. It plays with people's emotions, and it's not a good idea. But I don't know. He's ex-CIA, so maybe these kind of ops are just
psyop.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, I know you're on social media, as well. Did you see the blowback? It kind of blew up the entire community. There were people that were vowing that they were going to harass whoever replaced him. Other people celebrating that he was off. Do you think it's smart that Tom King and DC Comics openly troll the audience and cause further friction, in the community?
I don't know if they care if it's smart, as long as it works, and it worked. But again, like Perch saying, this is only a trick you can pull a few times before people just stop caring. Eventually, people are just not going to care. And that's when you lose this whole marketing strategy of just outrage, just being like, oh, look, this guy got fired off his book. And then just pull a gotcha and be like, no, actually, we're giving him a more important book, and he still has just as much control, if not more, than he had before. But it works, but you can only do this so many times before people catch on and just don't care anymore. So that's DC's thing. But outrage marketing has been a huge thing in comics forever. But this whole trolling people on social media is a little different. And Tom King really likes to play the woe is me card a lot. Anytime a new issue of Heroes in Crisis comes out, he'd be like, hey, look, guys, I got 3 death threats. Look how special I am because I got this. You're on the internet. If you do something on the internet, you're going to get death threats. Everyone gets it. But Tom King's the only person drawing attention to it because again, it's the whole woe is me thing.
That's true. Yeah, that's totally true.
Well, it's social justice honor points to get death
Yeah.
threats. You know, it's, oh, hey, look, I'm a victim today. Yay. You know, oh, shit.
Well,
And then you,
the Heroes in Crisis 8, that wasn't really a death threat. That was just a meme, right?
yeah.
Like it wasn't. You can throw whoever's name on the baby
Yep.
and whoever's name on the gun. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no real threat involved there. It was just, you know, it's what is it? When the AOC was saying that somebody was insulting her mom, and somebody put a meme, "Your mom is so ugly" meme up, you know, like that. And it's come on.
So so moving forward, you know, Perch, do you have any idea? The two names that I've heard that might be taking over for Batman are Grant Morrison, and of course, the name that came out of Rich Johnson's article was Brian Michael Bendis. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, well, I mean, people speculate. I think taking one by one, I think Morrison is very unlikely. He's happy on Green Lantern. There's going to be a decent sized run there. I think after Green Lantern, he'll go back and do some other things. He's a guy who's happy with the creator-owned properties that he's put together. I think that's highly unlikely. You know, Bendis, from some people I hear from in the industry, I think everybody's thoughts will go there because originally Bendis was offered Batman or Superman, picked Batman, or sorry, picked Superman. But he's going to dig in with Superman for a while. I think on one hand, the DC isn't going to shift him so quickly after they've done all this effort to put him on Superman. They're going to let him be there for a couple of years. I also think his numbers aren't good on Superman, and that is that would be a boneheaded move. You take Comp King off and you put a guy who's selling half the numbers on there. I'm sure Bendis will want to get to Batman eventually. Almost guaranteed he'll want to land there at some point. But I think it's far more likely we're going to get somebody else from the stable for a while. I think that you'll get maybe a little bit of a rotating writer situation similar to Detective until 100, and then I think they'll settle in with somebody new. It's not out of the realm possibility that Tom King does this limited series and this special event, whatever comes out the other end, because it will not just be a 12-issue series. There will be more. And then he comes back to Batman. I wouldn't be surprised with that either. But I think Bendis and Morrison will be off the table, and there'll be somebody else from their lineup.
So, Dylan, you know, who would you prefer to see on Batman?
I mean, of course, Morrison would be the dream for him to come back, but I don't know about Bendis. Bendis did write the he just had like 10 issues or whatever on the the Walmart exclusive series. He's been writing Batman on that, so he has been getting his toes wet with Batman. But oh man, for who to write? I'm loving what Tomasi's doing with Detective Comics right now. That's really interesting. I wish Morrison would come back. I don't see it happening. If they did the whole switcheroo though, with King just taking a 12-issue break with the miniseries and coming back, that'd be a stinger. But man, I honestly don't know. I'd have to really think about who I'd love to see come back other than Morrison, because seeing Morrison come back after his legendary run would be awesome. Of course, Snyder's my favorite Batman writer of all time, and I love what he's doing, and I can't wait for Last Night. But he's done after Last Night, so that sucks. But man, I don't know. There's a lot of people. Anyone other than like Bendis or King, I feel like just keep those away.
I'll say I wouldn't be surprised at all if Bendis is pulling a lot of his folks in his network into the company, and I would not be surprised at all if it was a Kelly Thompson or something of that nature that comes in.
No,
a lot of people. I that would be an interesting part of the game.
Yeah, so if it's not Morrison or Bendis, the one that makes the most sense is Tomasi moving over. He's doing a great job on Detective. People are enjoying the book. He's already proven he can handle a high-profile series. I believe he was on Superman, right?
But yeah, he was on Superman for beginning of Rebirth till Bendis.
Yeah, so he's obviously proven he can handle a high-profile book.
He also wrote Batman Robin during New 52 also.
Yeah, so he would be, seemingly the obvious choice if they wanted to go, I don't want to call it a safer route, but a route where people across the board would be pretty happy with what happens and know that they were going to get good quality Batman books.
Yeah.
And, maybe get some of the readership up or at least steady it because, King's selling the best on Batman, but they still lost, a third of the buying audience over the last 10 months. Pele, you're a retail owner. How many people have dropped Batman off their pools for you?
Ugh, it's been a bloodbath. Before starting with New 52, I was buying 100 copies a month. A couple of 100 copies an issue. It hadn't been monthly in a long time, but bi-weekly. I'd always place my orders for 100 copies, and then it slipped down to 75, and then it slipped down to 60, and by the time the last dozen issues, I've been slipping down to 50. I've been slipping down to 50 issue per order, and now it's down to 40. And I've never ordered less than 50 issues of Batman ever. So I'm like, holy crap, this is getting really, really bad. So,
and you're ordering for stock as well. You're not just ordering.
Yeah, this is for stock too. And that's why I'm going, what the hell? This is insane. And it's like, and people are just like, I just don't like it. It's just, I don't like it. It's like, I'm tired of seeing Batman, not winning. I'm tired of seeing Batman, getting kicked around and being treated like a bitch. So,
Are those readers moving over to Detective, or are they just leaving Batman?
Oh, they usually buy Detective too. A lot of people buy, Detective is like top 5. It's right there with Batman as far as selling. Most people who buy Batman also buy Detective. I'd say it's 75%. As far in my shop. So then you have, surprisingly or not surprisingly, it really bled over a lot between how many people were leaving Superman, and it's like going, oh, well, screw this. What else can I get? And it's like, well, let me try to getting on Batman, and they're like, oh, this isn't any better. So anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Dylan, have you been keeping up with the King series? I know a lot of people dropped off after the issue 50 debacle.
I'm very much just in and out. I don't have it on my pull. Just if there's something new going on that looks interesting, I'll read it. Because some of it has been good. For the most part, I'm not a fan of it. But like the Mr. Freeze arc was really cool, where Bruce Wayne was on like the jury for Batman, just utterly brutalizing Mr. Freeze. Like that was a really good arc. I enjoyed. I think it was issue 44, which I made a video on, which was like an A and B plot of Dick Grayson and Batman, like when they're grown up versus when Dick Grayson was a little kid, and like Dick trying to help Batman out. Like that was a really good issue. But then you get stuff where it's just, here's another issue of Batman being depressed and sad because Selina left him, which the whole Selina scarring him like that doesn't make sense to me, because as bad as that event was, it was just as bad at the end of Hush, when like through all of like the terrible things that Hush put that Batman through, at the end he's like, okay, I still got Selina. I finally trusted her with my secret identity. And then at the end, when she's going to kiss him, she tells him Hush, and his mind's just blown. And she's like, wait, also a pawn of like Hush / the Riddler. And he was just like, but at the end of that, he wasn't all depressed and like beaten because of that. And that was, I'd say, equally as bad as when she left him at the altar. At least when she left him at the altar, he knows she's not evil working for someone, unlike at the end of Hush. But
yeah, that's a crazy thing is, so Batman, Selina Kyle's left him multiple times. He's never lost his mind. Yep. Jason Todd was brutally murdered, by Joker's fist, in just a terrible death. He didn't lose his mind. Bane, basically kind of broke his spirit and then broke his back, but he didn't go crazy. So it doesn't seem to fit the character at all.
Yeah,
Well-
well, it's like we were talking about last episode. I think he's already crazy. Batman already has a certain level of insanity that he deals with anyway. It's like, he has these hard and fast rules because he's not all there, and his touch with reality is kind of tenuous anyway. So he goes, oh, I've got to set these rules up, and I'm going to make sure that I don't cross these rules. So, it kind of, it's a situation where he's losing his, he's not losing his mind. He's lost it long ago. It's just that he's kind of slipping as far as what he's willing to do now. So, is that good? Is that Batman? I don't think so.
I feel like for the whole Descent into Madness thing, though, the funny thing is Snyder's doing it so much better in the Batman Who Laughs right now. I don't know if either of you guys are reading that, but I really love that book.
Yeah.
And Bruce's slip is much more believable in that, how he's just getting his ass kicked at every turn by the Batman Who Laughs, and he's slowly turning into the Batman Who Laughs because he's like, I have to beat him. And so he's doing everything. Like, he just got the visor not too long ago, and he's going crazy. He had that little spat with Alfred where he like punched Alfred, and it was much more believable how that went compared to that at the end when he just clocked Tim in the face at the end of the last issue of Batman. Where it's like, that doesn't make sense, but it's amazing seeing the difference between King and Snyder. How like I'm loving what Snyder's doing to where what King's doing, like his Descent doesn't. All because Catwoman left him. It's just it's the whole like. I feel like King's so much better for miniseries though than long arcs because it goes from how can I make a character depressed for 12 issues to how can I make a character depressed for 100 issues. It's like,
well, that male, heroes are nothing without whammon.
Yeah.
So it's oh god, oh please, just stop. It's okay. He would mope. He'd walk around the mansion in his boxers for a few weeks, and then he'd be, dating Miss Norway.
And Nightwing comes over and says, "Hey, man, we still got a city to protect. I'm sorry this happened. Let's get back out there." That's that's what your buddies do when you're on, when you're having a bad time. They don't just let you out there and go crazy.
You'd have Lobo would come over with with a 6 of Heineken and say, hey, let's sit down, let's have a drink, let's talk about this.
Let's work it out.
Dick did come over to help him. Just Tom King had him get shot in the head. So
yeah. So I know, me personally, my favorite DC series up until recently was Nightwing, and until Tom King brought Dick Grayson into the storyline and had him shot by KGBs. I know you've done a couple of videos on it, Dylan. What are you thinking about? I mean, has it pissed you off as much as it's pissed me off?
Yeah, because I agree that was my favorite DC book until they had him get shot in the head, and it just ruined it. Because I loved what Percy was doing with it. It was so good. I really enjoyed the book. And then King had him get shot in the head, and it was all King's idea too, which is the part that sucks. I don't get why they had the guy writing Batman dictate what everyone on Nightwing's been doing. Ever since he got shot in the head, we've had 3 different writers on Nightwing because no one wants to write Rick Grayson. We had Percy, and then it went over to Scott Lobdell, which I don't get why he's still able to write stuff. And then we got, who we have now, Dan Jurgens, which I love Dan Jurgens, but now he doesn't get to do what he does. I think Jurgens could do a great Nightwing run, but DC's making him keep with the Rick Grayson stuff. And it's a team book now also, and it's just so uninspired and not good. And I wish they'd just get him out of it. No one likes this. No one wants this. I don't get who this book is for or what the point of it is, unless the book's for DiDio, but we need to get out of this era of Rick Grayson. It's terrible.
Yeah, and it's not only, Nightwing that it's affecting. When he decided to set up this whole Heroes in Crisis, big event, he had to pull off with Arsenal off of the Titans. He had to have Wally West go into the Flash Wars and basically fail to save his wife and children. And he's affecting all of these other books because he has so much power. And now it appears that he's going to have even more power to affect other people's books. First, it's good to see you back. How's your comms, man?
Hey, it's looking better. I'm not sure. He was hearing only one of you at a time, but who knows? Something wrong on my end. I'm back.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Tom King? You know, even before this recent promotion, having the ability to just go on other people's titles and dictate what happens to their characters and changing the course of the stories. Do you think he'll start taking advantage of it even more now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will. I think you're seeing it with Bendis right now as well, with some of the things he's done with the Leviathan theories. I mean, I think that for whatever reason, so two parts. I think DC editorial right now seems comfortable with their top tier writers or the people they put some promotion to, letting them just do what they want and not needing to clear it and talk to any of the other writers. That's happened now with a few guys. The interesting line in the PR that came out with Tom King that came from DC is this idea that with the Batman change, there's going to be a tighter continuity, or they're going to have these books kind of tightened up together. And I read that to say that, you know, Tom King's storyline that he's going to do with Batman Catwoman is definitely not an Elseworld story. It's going to impact the regular character. But maybe there's a hope in there too that they're going to start paying attention a little bit more to what writers are doing to their characters, because it's increasingly a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
Pele. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So Pele, you know, have you had fallout from your customers going, why the hell do all these changes happen? It doesn't feel like it flows with the stories. You know, are people noticing? You know, like normies that don't, watch YouTube videos and stuff. Oh wait, I think Pele walked out. My bad. So, Perch, are you seeing that as well? Are your customers getting, confused? Are they getting upset that all these other characters are being messed with?
Yeah, they do. I mean, the Heroes in Crisis, it's interesting, all the attention's on Batman. I mean, in a way, all the attention went from Heroes in Crisis to Batman, and now I think we're going to get the next issue out here in a few days for Heroes in Crisis, so that attention can come back. But people don't like the idea that if you're reading Justice League and you've got the characters there, and then you pick up a different comic and just completely different status quo things are happening over there in these other titles. They don't like it. I think readers like continuity. Certainly they like longer continuity, but they at least like continuity within the month. That stuff kind of drives people crazy. So it's a negative for sure.
Yeah. So I know, Dylan, you're like probably the world's biggest Superman fan. Are you excited about the new book, the Batman Superman book that's coming out of Batman Who Laughs as well? It seems like Batman's going everywhere.
I'm excited about that because it gives me some escape from Bendis. Because right now, Batman readers at least have the escape from King with Tomasi, and Tomasi's doing really good with Detective Comics. To where with Superman, you have no escape from Bendis. Like Superman and Action are both just being ruled by him. So at least there's that. I have no clue how Williamson will do on these characters. I've enjoyed what I've read of his Flash. I haven't read a lot of it, but from what I have read, I think he's done a pretty good job. So I'm hoping he does a good job with this. The like synopsis for it sounds interesting. How the Batman Who Laughs is going to be corrupting heroes around them, and they have to figure out who it is that he's corrupting and like turning evil or whatever. So that sounds cool. I love the Batman Who Laughs. Like I think he's a really cool character, but he could easily overstay his welcome. That's the problem, is the oversaturation of that character, because he has been going everywhere, and I want him to like maintain how cool he currently is, to where if they just throw him on every book and he's getting beat by everyone, that would suck. But I'm excited for the book. It all depends how the execution is.
Yeah, that's what's weird about that. That's what's weird about that, because Batman Who Laughs is like almost cosmic level of power.
Yeah.
In many, many ways, because it's like, he's like almost like would be considered an Omega level mutant in Marvel terms. So it's like, why would he be getting his ass kicked? The best thing that somebody could do is subvert him, in some way, and kind of, undermine what he's doing and kind of push him off to the side, and get him distracted, get him onto somebody else. So, and that's essentially what they've been doing so far. He'll like get bored, or he'll get, but anyway, but yeah, that's kind of odd. If everybody starts kicking his ass, then, it kind of ruins what he is,
Yeah. Then you have the problem that's going on with my second favorite comic character, Deathstroke. It has been going on with him for like the past decade. Where he used to be so badass, everything Marv Wolfman did with his series in the 90s, and now everyone beats him. I hated that. Like, what was it, Silencer issue 2 or something? She just kicks him in the nuts and then pushes him out a window. It's like world's greatest assassin right there. God,
he doesn't wear a cup, you know.
Yeah, even
world's
though
greatest assassin doesn't wear a cup.
We had that established actually in Judd Winnick's Green Arrow run. Dina, Black Canary, knees him in the nuts, and he looks at her like, "What are you, stupid? I'm wearing a cup." It's a great moment. And then in this, he's like, "Oh no, I'm an idiot." It's just I miss Judd Winnick.
Well, you know, men stupid, men stupid. You know, women are smart, men stupid.
So
Yeah.
With the big news, and you know, I'm seeing a lot of brushback from people, and they just aren't willing to accept the fact that Tom King wasn't fired. He's not even being disciplined and put into a corner with this. He is fully being elevated because DC Comics appreciates his work on Batman. They think he's doing a good job. Do you think people will be able to come around to that and actually accept that Tom King is a major player at DC and is for the foreseeable future, Perch?
I mean, put bluntly, I think people are going to struggle to accept it until some of the big voices and the YouTubers also can accept it. I mean, it's not to knock anybody, but it's when it's reinforced every single day. Oh my God, you know, King's sales are plummeting. Oh my God, he is the worst. It is bad. Every single day you hear that, that becomes your news. And the reality is, it's like you just do the math. Yes. Sales have fallen from his Batman book, but not out of the ordinary for a book that goes on. And we had the big wedding event that was a misfire, and it irritated people, and some people left it. But if you look at any title and you look at any kind of big moment and the issues that follow it, then there is a drop. And also when they compare it to Snyder's run, it's like Snyder had Capullo for it was a dedicated team. And it's weird that so many people start to dismiss the power of the artist. I mean, is there a more money draw artist at DC now beyond Greg Capullo? Is there anybody? I think he's got to be one of the top. So of course that title is going to sell more. And comparing those two is silly. But even beyond that, King's pulling in numbers that are 20 to 25% lower than Snyder was with 2 books a month, not 1. So if you're DC and you're the money guy, you are not upset at all. There's this constant drumbeat of like, oh no, he's ruining it. Everybody is mad. It's really bad. I get people don't like the run. I said originally, I'm not a big fan of his run. I don't like what they're doing with the character, but it sells. I mean, that's just a fact. It sells. So
well, that's what I was talking about before, though. You know, I've personally not seen a drop off like this in a series before. You know, we got like. From like say by the time that you get the number 1 drop off, you know, number 1 with Rebirth came out, and you know, we're selling, you know, I ordered 250 copies of Rebirth number 1 for Batman. You know, Batman Rebirth number 1, and then it dropped down, and by the time that, and it pretty much corresponded with Comicron's kind of stuff, kind of numbers as far as distribution. By the time issue 10 came around, I was ordering the 100 copies, you know, and that's what I was ordering. 100. Now I'm down to 40, and I barely sell. And I've dropped from number 10 of the series, where I was ordering 100 copies, to now has dropped 60%. So. And it's like, oh my God, what is going on? This is driving me insane, you know. And the only saving grace is that back issues drive my sales, you know, numbers. You know, 80% of my sales numbers are back issues of comics. So, you know, it's a situation where, you know, I can absorb that. That's fine. You know, but I want things to sell. I want Batman to succeed. I want these big, huge Halo characters to really kick ass in the market. But, you know, at the same time, I ordered 40 copies of the last issue that just came in. I ordered 40 copies of it. I've still got 6 on the shelf.
Oh.
After I covered my pulls, after I had my my 12 copies left for stock after my pulls, and I'm going, well, holy shit, here I am. I've got, I never have this happen before. It's Saturday. I've still got 6 issues on the stand, and I'm like, this is stupid. I underordered on purpose to see if, see how bad this was, and it proved to me just how bad it really is.
Mm-hmm.
So, at this point, bring Tomasi, do something, stop the bleeding, because people are just pissed because this isn't the Batman they love.
Well,
and
go ahead, Perch.
I was going to say that's interesting, and I think that's cool. I've always stated, I'm careful to say, my store's experience is not every store's experience. I went from 250 to 200. I still reliably sell about that amount, but it is. I think I said people grumble a little bit. That's the part that worries me, and I'm worried I'm going to fall into your experience. Because when people come in, they're not, oh, here's a new issue of Batman. There is a grumbling. There is the common phrase is, this better go somewhere. This better have a good payoff. I'm wading my way through all this stuff. It better end well. I think to the original question, I think the challenge is from DC's perspective, they're not hearing, because nobody at the publishers reaching out to the comic stores and talking to them, unless you're Midtown or the big guys.
Right.
They're just seeing a flat number, and that flat number that they're seeing paints a picture of everything is fine, or hey, maybe stuff's a little bit down, but not to any degree. Not any degree it's going to worry them. And I think I think the bottom drops out. I do believe fully that at some point fans decide, this isn't going to end well, or it's not going to pull up at the last minute, and then they just stop. And that's what I worry about. But.
Well, we were talking about, your shop to me sounds like you do a lot more in new comic sales, don't you?
No, well, it ebbs and flows. I think it's unfortunately it's very much a cliff. I've got the 10 hero titles that sell really well, and then a big drop. So I think the back issues definitely help pick up things. But yeah, I'd say new comics come in and out, and I do try and order. I don't order to have back issues. I order to sell through as much as I can. Right.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, I do order for back issues for like feature stuff like that. Not much. I'll order like, okay, I want to have like 10% over. I want to have, this. I want to put this back. I think that it will sell well as a back issue. But my number one selling title is Immortal Hulk. And I get 75 copies. So I'm not a huge new comic seller, as far as my customer base. I get people coming in and they're looking for Miller Daredevil. They're looking for, okay, I need Swamp Things. What do you have between issues 10 and 16? And so not so much new issues. I've got half a wall now.
Yeah.
And I've got half of a 35-foot wall, of new comics. So, and it was a whole wall. It was a whole wall until I was like, why am I ordering this shit? It doesn't sell. So cut. Now I got half a wall, and I got half a wall, and at last count about on floor stock about 220,000 issues. So,
yeah. So a couple books.
Couple books, yeah, and about another 250,000, in storage. So, but it's a different type of store.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys are in different markets. You're in the Midwest. I'm pretty sure. Are you California or were you like Oregon?
I'm Seattle. So.
Okay.
Oh wow, we're opposite.
The one state I didn't mention. So yeah, you totally different demographics, other than being comic nerds, a lot of different tastes. So, Dylan, let's say, DC does the dream thing and, they say Tomasi's moving up to Batman, but if King is still in charge of the character and the overall direction, Do you think that's still going to hurt the book, even if it has the right writer on it? If it has to go through King, moving forward?
Yeah, I think so. It wouldn't be the first time King got a writer kicked off a book because they didn't want to go to his whim. That's what happened with Percy on Nightwing. With him getting shot in the head, Percy wanted to do a whole Vertigo story to where now he got shot in the head. Suddenly, this high-flying Dick Grayson, who's known as a gymnast and always just going high-flying and everything, had vertigo. So now he had to rely more on his detective skills. It's going to be a really interesting story. And then King was like, "Nah, you can't do that because I'm just having him shot in the head. So this is what I want to do: have him just have amnesia." And so Percy's like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do that thing." So he left. And I feel like if Tomasi had to have everything go through King and have everything Kingified, be like, I think Tomasi would leave too. There'd just be so many times to where he'd just bring it to King. King would be like, "No, he's not depressed enough. Go write it again," to where until you just have to just be done with it. I don't think any creative writer would stick on there. I don't think it could go well. I feel like King would work perfectly for Black Label. I don't get why they don't just shoot him over to Black Label. That was made to be an out of canon, controversial line. Why not put him on there? He fits perfectly for that. I feel like that was made for him, but instead they have him mixing in continuity. If he wants to have Wally West just get shot in the head or whatever, or kill a bunch of people, do it in Black Label, not in main continuity. I feel like that would be perfect for him, but instead they have him messing in continuity for whatever reason.
I don't think they're convinced Black Label will go. I think they're still on the fence of if that's going to be a thing or not. But I agree with you completely.
I don't get their whole with Black Label. They had the whole Batman's dick thing, and that got huge popularity. It was talking about it was on late night TV shows, and everyone was like, "Wow, look, they put Batman's dick in a comic," so it got huge everywhere. And then they backtracked from it. I don't get why they backtracked from it. Because their whole thing was, this is our edgy out of continuity book. And then as soon as they got any type of backlash or people talking about it, they're like, okay, now the digital version, you can't see Batman's dick anymore. We're going to bring things down a little bit. And I don't get why they backtracked from it.
Well, I believe they just brought in a new president and DC didn't clear it with her. And she did not know that there was going to be a Bataway controversy. She was caught off guard, and that's why it will never be reprinted.
That's that what so annoyed me with that was it had been the retailer summit issue. I've got that issue, and it has his dick in it, and it had been out for 2 months. It's oh, hey, look, there's his dick. It's here. This was 2 months ago. What's the big deal? This is an R-rated comic.
Yeah.
This is for mature audiences. What's the big deal here? But no, as soon as it hit a few people, the real idiots online got a hold of it and started, "Oh, this isn't good. This is not a good look for DC." Kind of situation.
I was that idiot. I was definitely that idiot there.
Okay, yeah, it was people like you. Anyway, but what's wrong? What's wrong with his pecker? It's big deal. I get out of bed. I walk through the house. I go get me some coffee. I wasn't wearing any clothes when I first got on the stream here. It happens. Nakedness is a part of life.
You said stick to their guns on it instead of immediately chickening out at the first sign of someone be like, "No, this isn't good." Just stick to your guns on it.
Yeah.
Well, they probably
issue 2 was going to have issue 2 was going to have right. Issue 2 was going to have a.
Well, it's supposed to be a Harley Quinn, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be topless Harley in issue 2, and you can tell it where they kind of hastily, covered her with her blouse, that blouse in that one panel, that half-page panel. It's oh yeah, we can't show her boobies, no nipples, and covered her up. It's oh, come on, you bastards. But
it was bad time. For the record, I know I'm not video streaming, but I do have clothes on. Just saying. It's a timing. They're going through the acquisition, and it was exactly that. It was the new president was caught off guard. It was questions that they didn't want to hear. And I will say there wasn't the best warning to the shops that, hey, there's going to be a penis in this issue. So you got to, make sure this isn't up there with the kids' books. Everybody knew it was a mature title, but there's a lot of stuff that's pasted mature and isn't really mature. So there was some, but it was just the timing. It was the acquisition that was happening. I think they're waiting for that to settle a little bit. Now it kind of has, and I'm sure we'll get Penis again. It will come.
So do you think that'll ever be reprinted? Because, you know, that was a really hot book. People wanted that didn't get it.
I do. I absolutely do. Yeah.
What about the original format? Because it sounds like DC's moving away from the album style books.
I think there was some logistical problems with printing that put the cost higher than they intended, and that I doubt they'll go back to the original format. But
I was going to say one problem that happened was the way that comics are packed. They have these plastic straps that hold them in, and regular comics give. You know, they give whenever they're bound up like that. These didn't. They crumpled. So we ended up with like 25% damaged.
Yes.
You know, and it was like,
Exactly. No, that was exactly the same with me. Same with everybody. I'm in multiple Facebook groups for retailers, and everybody had that problem. And now we're used to Diamond like packing these things with monkeys or whatever they're doing to destroy the comics. But that I think is going to be a killer for the format because it did not survive.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool. I know some people had problems with it, you know, because it doesn't fit in, you know, short boxes or long boxes, you know, all the standard, you know, packing material that comic nerds have. But I thought it was really cool. I thought that it enhanced the visuals. You know, I thought it was a beautiful book. But it sounds like it's, you know, Batman Damned is going to be the only one released in that format.
Yeah, I liked it because it I sell a lot of the older graphic novels, you know, the old Marvel graphic novels, stuff like that, the New Mutants, Death of Captain Marvel, you know, that whole run there that was that size. So, you know, and I carry a lot of magazine bags and boards. So, you know, it's like, oh, this is cool. I can put this, it'll go along right over here, and DC will have, you know, I can fill out some DC in this area. So, you know, and it's where I have my DC Nations, large oversized DC Nations and stuff like that. You know, I don't just keep them over there by the register, you know, I keep them over there to kind of bring, you know, it's like, it's a free issue, bring attention over here to these oversized, you know, to help sell them. But yeah, it logistically though is a nightmare for them. I'm sure it was, you know, just how the damage. And what's funny is all those damaged issues, you know, I still sold them because of, you know, it's like, oh, well, it's still going to be worth something even with this indentation on the spine. So it's like, okay, you know.
Yeah, I marked down and sold them too. Well, you had to. The demand was huge for those, and I hope, my hope at least, because there was initially some word that DC was pissed and there was a brawl there, and I always hope when these moments come up, it's going to smack some change into Diamond, or these publishers are going to use some of their power to move things. But it seemed to quiet down, and we're right back where we started.
Okay, first I wanted to get back to what I was talking to Dylan there about. Do you think King is going to have oversight over the Batman character even when he leaves the Batman story or this Batman series?
I think for a while, so what I think will happen, at least what I hear, I talked to a few editors and others, but he will set the direction, which is a little bit different than being kind of the editor. So he's leading to his big reveal. We're guessing at what that is, but whatever is at the end of his storyline, he's going to be empowered to make sure the other writers are aligning with that march to that storyline. Once that's, you know, done and in the bag, I think we're looking at probably 2021, the start of, you know, roughly, you know, a year and a half, 2 years from now. Whether he stays on or not, I don't know, but he's definitely going to be in control of the bigger beats. And I completely agree with Dylan. If you're a good writer, you're not going to come on and want to be told, you know, hey, make him more depressed or any of that stuff. We are on the arc now where he's going to pick himself back up and, you know, win the big fight and then reconcile with Catwoman and whatever's going on there. So, I mean, we'll get more positivity out of him. But like if a writer came in and wanted to have Batman, I don't know, for example, if they want to have Batman have a storyline with Robin, you know, a real very close father-son kind of moment there, and King is doing something with Catwoman where the relationship is going to be really heavy pressed there, I think King would put his foot down and say no. And I do think that will be happening. And I think he'll have that power for at least another year and a half. So I don't know, Dylan. I agree with what you said. I think any quality writer though is not going to go for that.
Yeah, especially with what you're saying about the whole Robin thing is like that's Tomasi loves Damian since he wrote the Batman Robin book in New 52, and he just brought Damian in for the current arc with Arkham Knight, and he's made him a huge part of the story. And has Damian even been in like more than an issue of King's Run? Like I haven't seen Damian at all. I know he's brought Dick in a few times, but I haven't seen Damian like whatsoever in that run. Yeah,
not really. And I don't. By the way, I'm just speculating here. I'm just using an example. I don't know it would go necessarily there, but I think he'll definitely have some control. The part that I think will be interesting to watch is how Bendis wants to kind of, for lack of a better word, tentacle in with Leviathan and some of these other storylines. He wrote the bit with Damian suspecting Jason Todd in the Villains United. I'm not remembering all days, but I think those two visions are going to start to clash. And I think if you're sitting on the sidelines with some popcorn, I think that's going to be fascinating to watch these kind of two larger kind of player egos come at each other. I don't think that will gel well, and I guarantee you those two they'll start to bump in, and that will be probably horrible for comic readers, but fascinating for people who like to watch behind the scene drama.
Yeah, I wonder, you have to side with King on that, right? Because he sells so much better than Bendis. Like, if you're DC, I feel like you have to side with King. You have to look like, well, who's selling better? King by a mile over what Bendis is doing right now. If that drama, like, if they come to a head, I feel like you have to side with King. Just, man, it sucks that we're stuck on those two guys when DC has great talent like Scott Snyder and Jeff Johns, but the guys that are, like, sort of leading the pack is King and Bendis. Just, but, yeah, we're having a lot of status quo changes with whatever King's doing with Batman. Then we got Leviathan, and then issue 10 of Doomsday Clock's supposed to have some huge reveal. So we got a lot of big stuff happening, and then we got Heroes in Crisis, of course, also ending. So there's a lot of big stuff happening at DC right now. It's gonna change everything.
The more I think about it, the more I think about it, Doomsday Clock. I'm thinking everybody was thinking that, well, it's because of somebody's not turning in their work on time. This is being delayed. It's not coming out. No, I'm thinking now that King has been using his influence to delay something that's going to be happening in Doomsday Clock, and it's going to affect what he wants to do. So he's been kind of using his influence to push it back. And
I can see that.
And this is my theory. I don't really have any proof about this, but it's my theory that he's using his immense influence now that he has, to kind of push that back. And because I don't know about anybody else, but Doomsday Clock sells better than Batman for me. It's like, oh, it's out, grab, and people just, and I have people that run to the stands when it does eventually come out. They'll run to the stand and just sit on the floor and read it. They buy the copy, but they'll sit down and go, okay. Oh, wow, that's awesome. They go up front and they buy it and they leave, I don't see that with too many other comics. So
no, you're right. It has attention. That one, it's when Snyder's doing the Batman Who Laughs series. That's another one that people will be reading in line. Yeah. Batman, it did used to be that way. I mean, it was definitely the people were hooked going into the wedding for me, but that did hurt after. I don't know. It's curious because what's weird about the Watchmen Doomsday Clock story is, Johns can be late, but not this late. This is weird and unusual. Now he's been sold into Time Warner, AT&T as the kind of the architect and the vision to help them kickstart some of their plans. So maybe he's distracted. Could be. And Gary Frank is also slow, but again, not this slow. And he's been doing, alt covers and some other things. So it's, you typically when somebody, if you look at the Ultimates, and when that was super late, you didn't see the artists doing kind of other covers and other things in the middle. They were pretty much heads down. So I think something is going on there. It's very odd. The delays do not make a lot of sense.
Well, and it was synced up purposely to link up with the final issue of Heroes in Crisis. So do we think that that Wally West is going to be the first reveal of of the new Secret Six?
Oh God, wow! I didn't even think of that, of him being part of Secret Six.
Because it's supposed
That
to be
would-
6 heroes that are being driven insane. Some of them know that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
villains. Some of them don't. You know,
Oh yeah, is this part of the whole Batman Who Laughs thing with Superman, Batman?
mhm.
Okay, man. I hope not with Wally. It sucks to see all the good grace that DC earned with Rebirth and bringing Wally back just get destroyed by Tom King. It sucks to see that happen. I hope he's not. If they're smart, they won't have him do that. No one wants to see a villain Wally West or anything remotely close to that. But I could see them doing that. It wouldn't surprise me if they did.
So I think it's kind of almost the exact opposite. I wouldn't be surprised if this is their outdoor, that they basically get to use this as the redemption. So if they do reveal, hey, he is part of this, has been driven insane, then he can be cured. It wasn't part of his original actions, and this is how they are able to take it all back, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they'll be using Psycho Pirate for it. I think he'll be a key part going forward. They seem to be. He was in Metal. I think Tom King has used him a few times in Batman as well. Correct?
Yeah, he's been part of the Cabal.
Mm-hmm. So, since Snyder's writing the new Secret Six, and it's kind of flowing out of the Batman Who Laughs, I was initially really down on it because I was like, this sounds like Heroes in Crisis, but 6 times worse. But I don't think he'll make it that dark. I think it'll be more fun and more enjoyable. Do you agree with that, Perch?
Yeah, I do. I'll put on the table, my bias. I like Snyder. I've had a lot of good conversations with Snyder. He is a friendly guy. I know he got on the bad side of some folks for whatever reason on social media, but he's thoughtful. In his heart, he wants to produce a comic that people likes. He does actually listen a lot to what people are saying, and he does take it into account. He doesn't have the same. I've talked to many different writers who will say things like, "Well, the fans don't really know what they want, and so I'm going to show them." And Snyder does say, "Hey, I'm going to do this story," but you've watched him pivot at different times. Key in point, the Justice League series that he's doing right now, he listened to a ton. I know for a fact he listened to a ton of the videos and read a couple of blogs where saying he was being too wordy and too dense, and that the concepts were just flying every which way. And if you'll notice in the later issues, he's not dumbed it down, but he takes more of his time. Mm-hmm. And I do think, I do think it'll be a more optimistic. He does not relish in the idea of just dragging the characters completely through the mud. He always gives them a way up.
Yeah, even in with the Batman Who Laughs, it's pretty dark, kind of like the current Batman, but it's a lot more fun. It's a better read. Like you don't finish reading it kind of feeling dirty the way I have. Almost that entire Nightmare story arc was just atrocious.
Yeah. I feel like Snyder's Batman though seems a lot more determined than King's. King seems a lot more depressed and kind of giving up and like just letting everything rule him, to where Snyder's Batman seems a lot more determined, like no matter what, I'm going to beat the Batman Who Laughs. And he's like seeing him go through this journey he's going on right now, as crazy as he's going. Like he's got that determination that King's Batman doesn't. At least that's how I see it.
I agree with you.
So once King leaves, I read his interview and he said that Batman will be at his lowest in his story arc at issue 75. Which I think is a crazy statement because I was like, wow, Batman can get lower than absolutely insane and hallucinating events and, punching out one of his Robins.
What would be the lowest point of? Yeah, what would be the lowest point for Batman?
Well, I think
killing
it's
somebody.
Yeah,
actually killing someone.
Yeah,
I think that's what King is pushing to, is he's going to murder somebody. Batman's going to kill someone in cold blood. And it's like, and how does Batman come back from this? That's what he's talking about. What he's going to change Batman forever. Well, Batman's never just murdered somebody, so everybody's going to have to. All writers from here on are going to have to step around that.
I did a whole video on that.
Who do you think he'd have Batman kill though? Do you think it would be a big name or just some rando?
No, I
some
think he's going to
random guy?
kill either. I think he's going to kill either Bane or Thomas Wayne.
Oh, I can see
Psychopirate.
him kill Thomas Wayne. I hate the whole bringing Thomas Wayne
with
into
Thomas
this.
Wayne, there's an out where it's nobody's. It doesn't matter because Thomas Wayne in that continuity is already dead. So killing an alternate timeline Thomas Wayne would work perfectly for Batman having the guilt of murdering someone on top of murdering his father, while on top of it being like, oh, he was out to destroy me. I had no other option.
So
Yeah.
I'm reading it that Thomas Wayne isn't really there because Batgirl contacted Alfred and asked him point blank, did Thomas Wayne, attack you and hurt you? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened. So I think everything that Bane and Thomas Wayne and the prisoners escape in Arkham, I don't think any of it actually happened. Is anyone else reading it that way?
So
Yeah.
it would make sense because he only appeared until issue 50, and then the other time in the Button. But the Button makes sense, but in issue 50, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, he reappears once Selina leaves him. So now that we're on it, my theory was the big change was he was going to have like a multiple personality that was called Bane because he'd been fractured mentally. That might kind of happen a little bit, but I don't think that's actually going to be it. I think it's going to be a change. I think some people might like. I know, Perch, you have a theory. What's your theory on the big generational change for Batman?
I know. Like I said, I think the generational change will be either a marriage or a firm commitment between the two. I do think that's one reason why DC was okay with having him do the complete bait and switch, where they went and did PR that said the wedding was going to happen. I mean, they put that out into news stories. I think the phrase "it's definitely not a trick," and then it was completely a trick. So I think we're still heading there. I think that will be the kind of Batman Catwoman in a way. They're actually married, or it's like a more established firm couple. It's going to go on. I don't know, but that's my take. That's interesting, though. The theory about him actually killing someone, I think that's highly likely as well, because it does beg the question: how far down do we go? I'd assume the next several issues just getting the crap beat out of himself, and now we move to more physical kind of destruction of Batman. But the part
He's
that
already
I think
broken.
Yeah, he's broken mentally, and now what else do you get?
Well, I mean, he's already broken so many. He's broken all the other rules. So
Yeah.
he's tortured people. He's he's done all these other things. What else does he have left? Well, killing someone. So
I think that's a good guess. I think that's interesting. I think it's odd we're going to get the whole the villain storyline here kind of right in the middle of the City of Bane, and if you read the solicits, they're going to have Luthor come in and offer some stuff to Bane, and that whole how these two storylines are going to merge is going to be weird to watch how these things kind of play out. But I that was my guess. We'll see. I don't know. He can't take the roller coaster ride down much farther. He's got fans really. He does have them on the edge, and they can't deal with too much more. It's becoming a snuff film.
Absolutely. Hey, Dylan, did you have a theory on what his big generational change is? He's going to murder somebody. I thought he was going to be schizo. Perch, thinks he's actually going to get married finally.
I think he will get. I think he will get married. I'm not sure if that'll be the big generational change, though. That'd be. I hate that if they did like, hey, that thing that we said we were going to do earlier, then we didn't. That's the big change. It's like, okay, that. I'd hate if that was the big change. I could see them doing that though, but I think he'll get married. But he said that issue 75 is when he's at his lowest.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll operate out in the open now. I think his identity will be out there. I think he'll be like Tony Stark or Oliver Queen, and he'll be this guy that Bruce Wayne and Batman are one and the same now. And I think that'll be his big low point. I don't know how his identity will get revealed. It'd be a real kicker if Cat
to Gotham or something.
Yeah, or if for whatever reason Catwoman was like, okay, you just have to tell everyone that's the only way we're going to get married. I could see King doing something really stupid like that, having Catwoman, like that's a condition of Catwoman marrying Batman. I could see that.
And it liberates Bruce Wayne, Batman. He's finally happy again.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, yeah, I could see that happening. But yeah, that's what I think it'll be. I think his identity will get revealed to the world. I think
If
that'll
that-
be the big thing.
If Batman's identity is revealed, then then Bruce Wayne would be able to marry a out-known criminal like Selena Kyle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good guess too. I can see that very possible.
Yeah, because during his Nightmare story arc, on a couple of the things, she specifically, in his mind told him, "You're married to Batman. You don't have time for me." So if he revealed to the world, "I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm Batman," then he could actually have a relationship. So actually, those are some really good guesses. It got me thinking. But
The only problem with that is it.
He gets schizo, he gets married, and his identity, and he kills somebody. Just throw all of it at once. Yeah.
It's like that. That could just ruin the lives of his Robins, though. That's the only thing that sucks. There is.
Well, he already did. One Robin.
I mean, everyone knows who the Robins are now if they know Bruce Wayne is. They're like, oh, he had all these different wards. Okay, we know who all the Robins are.
You know what's funny, though, is they never actually decided to fix that when they did it in Forever Evil. They were like, Dick Grayson is Nightwing, and then everyone saw it, but no one was like, oh, wait, wasn't that kid from the circus? He's taken in by Bruce Wayne, and he happened to be Robin. Like, they never even bothered to, even address that. Yeah. They were just like, oh yeah, we used an internet thing that erased his identity. It's like, okay, yeah, just because you erased it from the internet doesn't make it like I don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you Mandela effect the idea that Robin, who was now Nightwing, is now Dick Grayson, wasn't connected to Bruce Wayne Batman, even though there's Batman theories online that Bruce Wayne puts online himself that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and Bruce Wayne also announced to the world that I've been publicly funding Batman for the last 20 years, and no one ever even addresses it. So that's just a fault of rebooting the universe and not ever fixing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I love DC logic. I love the background. Nobody thinks of these cases. There's all these clear clues out there. It's like, all right, cool. All right, that was fine. It cracks me up.
I mean, the answer is always.
Whoops. I could hear the weather. My bad, guys. I didn't realize he was about to talk again. Hopefully, are you unmuted now, Bats?
Yeah, I hear birds chirping.
that was an accident, man. That was not on purpose. All right, so now that Tom King, there's an end date for his Batman. He's finally going to be removed. Bats, what do you think his ultimate legacy is going to be on the character and on the title?
I unmute. Nope.
What's up? All right. Same question to you, Paley. What do you think his legacy is going to be?
I think I figured it out.
Oh,
sorry.
God.
Sorry, I'm terrible at technology. I'm sorry, repeat the question.
So once King's Batman run is over at 85, he's removed from the series. That's a long run. What do you think his ultimate legacy is going to be with the character in the series Batman?
I think most fans will just accept that his legacy is he's the guy who did X, Y, and Z, and it was pretty terrible as it happened, but as the future moved on, we got some cool bullet points to move forward with, but that's about it. It's kind of like when Nightfall happened, and it was like, oh, they broke Batman's back, and they gave Dick Grayson this, and then they did this, and they did that, and it's like, okay, it's just something you can address in future storylines for, subplots and, character moments. But that's, it's kind of just the same with Alan Moore with Barbara Gordon. It's like everything could be just changed, and it's just something to throw into dialogue later on and down the line. Be like, oh, well, remember when you punched me in the face because I was trying to help you, Bruce? And he's like, I was at the lowest point in my life. And he's like, that's just pretty much what it's going to be. The legacy is just for, people are not going to be happy with it, but they'll just move on with their lives. Just because Batman's going to keep coming out and they're going to keep chasing the dragon of the new issue. So that's all it is. And like, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter. His legacy is it doesn't matter, but it happened.
So Bailey, what are your thoughts on King's legacy when it's all said and done and he's off the Batman series finally?
I think that he's the guy that pulled the switcheroo on the wedding. Yeah, I hate that guy. He's a dick.
Yep.
That's gonna be King's legacy as far as that's concerned, in my opinion, because that's the biggest Lucy pulls the football moment in comics in the last 5 years. So that's what people are going to remember going forward. They're going to say, they were going to get married, and for the flimsiest of reasons, Catwoman backs out, Selena Kyle runs away, and Batman goes nuts for a while. It's sad. It really is sad. This is supposed to be one of the strongest minds, in all of DC Comics. And he's so analytical, and he has such control, but this woman throws him into a tailspin for half a year or a whole year. It's like no, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people are gonna remember that as the main thing. They're gonna remember, we didn't get what we were promised, and then Batman went crazy for a while. That's it.
All right, so Doc finally joined us. I guess he was doing some yard work, and you passed out. Is that what happened?
I came inside after doing about 2 hours of yard work this morning, sat down in my recliner, closed my eyes for 5 minutes, and then it was 2 hours later.
All right, buddy. So, we've been talking King and Batman and DC Comics. You heard the previous question. What do you think the legacy of Tom King's Batman is going to have?
I think he'll be looked at as the guy that followed Scott Snyder. And honestly, he's not gonna be remembered greatly. He's not gonna be remembered poorly. He's just gonna be remembered as, he's the guy that did, he had a nice long run. And I think that's about it. I don't see anything. Unless he ends this whole thing with an actual marriage, he's not going to be remembered for anything. Nothing important happened. Nothing, there's not a lot of memorable stuff. There's not a lot of, because Snyder at least had, Batman sort of died, and then Jim Gordon became Robo Batman, and that kind of stuff. So at least that was something memorable. This is, it's not bad, not great. It's just another run. It's just a long run of Batman. That's it.
Interesting. What's your thoughts, Dylan?
I think his greatest contribution he'll remembered for is making Kite Man interesting again. I think the worst thing is he'll be remembered for the wedding. I think that's the big thing, is the fake out of the wedding. And then obviously whatever happens in 75, he'll be remembered for that. But I think the fake out of the wedding and getting Dick Grayson shot in the head are the two things that 10 years from now, when people are like, what'd you think of Tom King's run on Batman? People are like, isn't that the guy that got Dick shot in the head? Or isn't he the one that did the fake out on? Yeah, isn't he the one that did the fake out on the wedding? I think those are the big things that people remember. Because besides that, it's not all of his runs bad, but it hasn't been memorable. There hasn't been Snyder opened with the Court of Owls, who are now one of the coolest parts of Batman's Rogues Gallery, and they just came in the New 52. He doesn't have a Court of Owls or anything close to that. Snyder opened with that. King has had 70-something issues now and doesn't have anything close to that. So I don't think he'll really leave a lasting mark. I think it'll just, people will be like, oh yeah, he's the guy that got Dick shot in the head and screwed up the wedding. Assuming, unless he gets Catwoman and Batman married, which I think they will, he'll be remembered for that also. Just oh yeah, he did a fake out and then they got married.
So Perks, what do you think his legacy is going to be?
Yeah, I think similar. I think he's going to get tagged for that fake out on the wedding. I think he's going to be the guy who did a bait and switch, and I think DC
Perks might be having some technical difficulties.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yep. No. I think I think that the bait and switch is going to be the key thing he's remembered for. I think Dylan's absolutely right. He didn't create anything, and that's over time. That's going to be the shame. And if they don't go through with the wedding, then he's going to be remembered as the guy who. I mean, the stuff that's going to come out years and years from now is whenever Catwoman's on the scene, it's going to be kind of a cruel joke, like, "Hey, you got Batman all sad for years." That's going to be his legacy. Is like, you're the guy who had a bad engagement, make a guy depressed. And so they kind of almost have to end with the wedding, because if they don't, it's just it's just gonna be a joke over the years. It's a shame he didn't create a new villain or anything. That's screwy. You're absolutely right. Snyder gave us all kinds of things, and King has not given us a new villain or a real threat, and that's it's kind of weird. You think about it, 100 issues, and there's been no, he created Gotham Girl, and that whole thing. That's it. I mean, there's not a lot of new coming out of it.
So, from my perspective, I think Tom King should probably mostly do miniseries, because I think he's really good at establishing ideas, but he's not good working with open timetables. He needs somewhere. This is where you start, and this is where you finish. And I don't think he finishes well. So I think in the end, he's gonna be remembered as a Batman that started out with a lot of promise, that people were really into, and just died by the end, and nobody wanted to read anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's kind of my thoughts. But I also think somewhat good for him is that I think his work on Heroes in Crisis is so much worse. But I think it might override anybody's remembrance of what happened on Batman because of what he's done to Wally West and what he created with Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah, at least there's been some good with Batman. There's no good with Heroes in Crisis. There's nothing besides the stellar artist he's got on there with Lee Weeks, Clayman, and Mitch Gerads. Aside from that, that book is just terrible.
Yeah, and it's affected so many other books in a negative way. You just wonder what Didio and Lee are doing, but obviously, it's part of their plan. So, Perch, do you think are we in the new 52 now? Rebirth is over.
Yeah, I think we're in a merge time. I think there's a lot of the new 52 that Didio and some other people liked, and I think there was some reluctant hesitation, if you will, to go into Rebirth. And so I think we're now merging them a little bit back together. It's interesting to see where the players land. If Johns is going to kind of move upstream and really focus on the entertainment efforts with their new parent, if Bendis is going to basically come in and try and bring as many of his buddies, people from his network in with him that we're already seeing a lot of, it's going to be interesting to see how things move and shake. I think the name to watch is going to be Snyder and where he lands, because if I close my eyes and I think 5 years in the future, I suspect Snyder will be gone from DC and off doing other things, and we'll see it be much more of a Bendis-driven company. I think that's the arc it's on, frankly.
Is that because you think Snyder will be kind of creatively pushed to the side, and you'll be like I'm worth more than this. I don't need this crap.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a name and he can stand on his own, and I think he's collecting some artists that really like to work on it with him, and I think he moves to more of the creator-owned side. He follows a Mark Miller example. I mean, Miller is living a really good life right now with the Netflix deals and everything he's doing, and I think Snyder is probably, if you look across the entire industry, Snyder's probably the only name right now that could easily follow in those footsteps and have the same kind of effect. A lot of the other guys are tied to various things. If Bendis could have done it, he would have done it. So I think that's his future.
Mm-hmm. So,
well, one thing on that is, I think Bendis couldn't do it because Marvel killed the creative committee. That's the reason why he left in the first place, because he thought that was his way in to the Hollywood side. That's where he wants to go. He wants to be Jeff Johns. And Marvel killing the creative committee a couple of years ago while he was still under exclusive put an end to that. As soon as his exclusive ended, he jumped ship to DC because they still have a connection, a direct pipeline between DC Comics and DC Films, or whatever the hell they call their company.
I believe it's Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah,
I don't think they have their own studios. I think it's just Warner Brothers that does it.
Yeah,
So,
they have whatever.
So, I think we've talked about King and Batman. We've gone over his legacy, kind of his missteps and everything. I do want to talk about a little bit about Christopher Priest. I know, Dylan, you said you're a big fan of Deathstroke, right?
Yeah, he's my second favorite comic character.
What did you think of the Terminus agenda? Did you read all the crossover between that and Teen Titans?
I didn't read the Teen Titans issues because I read all the Teen Titans issues for the last crossover they did, the one where Deathstroke got the Speed Force, and it was just a terrible arc. So this one was like, Lazarus Contract, that's what it was. So for this one, I'm like, I'm not going to do this stupid crossover thing. So I just read the Deathstroke issues, and the first one was actually pretty interesting. And then the last one was just not. He's like, hey, Damian, come kill me to prove that you're broken, that, Batman doesn't have control of you or whatever, and I'm your real dad. And then Damian goes, no, I won't do it. And Green Arrow's little sister kills Deathstroke. And now we're having R.I.P. Deathstroke right now. Deathstroke's dead, and he's going to be dead for like the next, 8 issues. I like Christopher Priest. I don't think he fits Deathstroke well. Series has been very up and down for me because I'm a huge Marv Wolfman purist when it comes to Deathstroke. I love what he did with Deathstroke, considering he created the character. But this has been Priest being like, okay, I'm not going to do Wolfman Deathstroke. I'm going to do my own Deathstroke. And it's not him. It's not Slade to me. It's this completely new character, and he doesn't add up with the Deathstroke I know. But Christopher Priest overall, I like it. He gave a spanking to that guy in that interview. That was great.
Yeah. We're heading towards there. So I jumped on Deathstroke in the Deathstroke versus Batman story arc, and I made it like an issue and a half in. And I was like, this is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense. I was like, not a whole lot exciting, but Christopher Priest is a great writer. He seems like a really cool guy. Recently he had an interview with, is it Chris Arentz?
Something like that, Errant, something like that. Yeah.
Chris Arentz. And he put a pretty good spanking on him. Doc, did you read their interview?
I did. I read most of it. I mean, it was mostly a straightforward interview until the part where, he came back at the end and started asking a bunch more questions. And, but that was Chris Arent just doing his, Twitter concern troll / hey, be careful, the weaponized mob's coming after you. And Priest just going, I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm. You might as well say, I find your comments problematic.
Yeah, exactly. He's just some woke scold that, that's who he thinks he can, he thinks he can do that with everybody because all the other pros to this point have buckled under with his nonsensical scolding. So, yeah, he just said, go to hell. I'm going to say what I want. Bye. And that's kind of the way you handle these people. You just tell them your words have no power. But I called you racist, and you think that matters?
Yeah. He basically said all my complaints you just basically confirmed.
Yeah.
And you made yourself look like an idiot. So me personally, I don't really know who Chris Arentz is. Perch, who is that? Does he have a reputation in the industry? All right, looks like Perch might have dropped out. Does anyone know who Chris Arentz is? Who is he?
I'd never heard of him prior to this interview. I'd never heard that name.
I've seen him around.
He's he's an SJW shit talker that likes to I've seen him a few times, and basically he's the one who dog whistles to the regressive left and the SJWs to bring attention to, oh, this person is guilty of wrong thing, we need to pile onto them. That's basically his MO. He's
he reminds me of a cheap knockoff American Kieran Shake. That's really what he reminds me of. That's the way he's acted to this point, you know. every time I see him, because he's pulled this shit. He tried this with, you know, trying to destroy DNC a while back. You know, it's just him being a shit stirrer.
Mm-hmm. So he's just a concerned troll, but he works for Newsarama, or is he a freelance guy?
I think he's a freelance
concerned troll.
Yeah, he's a freelance concerned troll. I've only read like 2 or 3 of his articles to this point, and they're always terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes they can be, you know, relative. They're very bland articles, but anytime there's anything juicy, I don't know if it gets edited out or he protects whoever it is by, you know, or if he only interviews. I can't remember if he only interviews, you know, other like-minded weirdos. I honestly don't remember, but yeah, it's just bland, generic, you know, interviewer A.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he dismissed him pretty hard. I actually quite enjoyed it. It was a lot of funny, you know, memes and stuff on the social media about it. But I really like Christopher Priest. I think he's a free thinker. I like that he says what he wants. I know he doesn't agree with much of what I believe, but I like that he he seems to believe at least in free speech and free thought. It's kind of seems different in the industry right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dill, what are your thoughts? You know, do you think is there too much like group think in the industry? Is that all because that's all I see out of the journals, at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's way too much groupthink, and I wish we had some better comic book websites. Bleeding Fool is pretty good. Bounding into Comics, when they focus on comics, can be good, but randomly they'll tweet about something that has nothing to do with comics, and they'll be like, okay, but yeah, or like when the whole Gillette thing happened, I saw like 15 comic book YouTubers I'm subscribed to start talking about Gillette's manliness thing. I'm like, what does this have to do with comics or anything? But yeah, the whole groupthink thing is a big thing in the comic book industry. And like, you'll notice anyone that's even like a little bit like right of being a liberal, they just don't talk, or they're excommunicated from the industry. Like, it's so weird that a legend like Chuck Dixon can't get work at the big two, even though he's such a legend, like more than a lot of the people writing at either of those. They gave him a little bit with that Bane storyline he had last year at DC, but that was the first time like 20 years or whatever. It's just because if you think differently, then you can't write with us. It's so stupid. Because I know there are some guys that I follow that I have an inkling that they're maybe a bit more conservative, but they just don't talk about it at all. Like, they'll be like, hey, here, my new issue's out, but personally they don't say anything because they're deathly afraid of anything happening. And that's what Christopher Priest was even saying in that interview. I thought that was cool how he was saying that, because he doesn't fear any repercussions. Like, what are you going to do to me? I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was refreshing to see, and I see the same thing. There's a few of the pros online. You can tell that they can't say anything that they feel, or they'll be outed. You know what's really funny is we're off the King subject, but now that we're talking about Dixon, is King's like trying to redo Nightfall, but on the psychological level, and he's just outing himself as so inferior to Chuck Dixon, and every time he tries to do Alan Moore tropes, he's just not doing this. He's not good in their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You know?
And the 9-panel grids kill me. Especially because like Alan Moore used them effectively, but I feel like King doesn't use them effectively at all, and also he's this great artist. Like, that's the best thing about King. He attracts amazing artists like Lee Weeks, Mitch Gerards, and Clayman. And like, I want to see like detailed panels and stuff instead of just 9-panel grid of, oh, this guy's facial expression changed a little bit. Like, you're wasting these great artists on these 9-panel grids that no one cares about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty funny when you think about what he's trying to do, but it's really a shame what's happened to Chuck, because he has to work for what's Vox Day's line?
Alt something, I don't know.
Avalon Comics.
It's Avalon.
Avalon, yes.
Oh, I thought it was Arkhaven, right?
It's Avalon is Chuck's book. Arkhaven is sorry.
So nobody in the industry will hire Chuck Dixon and give him regular work, except for Vox Day on his Arkham, or his Arkham, his whatever I just said, that line. And then everyone says, well, you must be an alt-right Nazi because you're having to write for Chuck Dixon. It's like, the dude has a wife, he has a family. He has to, you're forcing him to work for the guy.
Yeah, I was remember, what's his name? Dang it, I can't. Who's the co-creator Bane with Chuck Dixon, the artist? I don't know why I can't think of his name. That he always collaborates with.
Graham Nolan.
Yeah, Graham Nolan. Graham Nolan did a Reddit AMA for his Monster Island book, and someone was on there talking about how they like Bane Conquest, which was the story they did like last year, 2 years ago with DC. It was like, oh yeah, we were gonna continue that storyline, but then DC didn't want us to because like Dixon had ideas for like a sequel to that storyline. It's like, I would have loved to see a sequel to that. And funny enough, like when I first discovered Chuck Dixon through G.I. Joe, I know a lot of people through Punisher or Batman, but I first discovered him through G.I. Joe, and I loved what he did with G.I. Joe. And he was good friends with like the IDW guys, and then that all changed, which sucked because G.I. Joe is terrible right now, but he did some great work with G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm. So, Perch, are you back? Can you hear us?
I'm back. I think I clearly have some issues here, but I don't know what's going on. There's always one guy, and there's always the one person in the thread who's dealing with computer problems, and I'm like, I get to be that guy today. So sorry about that.
Look, I know you have some, you have a lot of insiders and things. Is what happened to Chuck Dixon? Is that like a constant thread over like any conservative or anyone that doesn't go right on with the party line, in the comics industry?
Yeah, it is. I think I have a slightly different perspective. I mean, this topic is the subject of a lot of videos and everything, so I have a slightly different kind of view of it. But think about it this way. I think there are very established little networks of people that get put into groups. You have a group of people, roughly from it's called the Portland group, but they have that group. You have a group from Boston. You have a group from kind of different areas, and it's on the surface. There's nothing necessarily sinister about it. If you go to any job, any workplace, you get people who are friends, and you have networks that take place, and you have people. Of course, if you're going to hire somebody new, you look to your own network first. That's not unusual or even bad. But the difference is in larger companies, you have HR as a function to prevent complete nepotism and complete, people who don't know what they're doing from coming in. And in comics, because it's a creative industry, because people are on freelancer agreements and they aren't coming in and staff, there's so much less oversight there for what goes on. And so, unfortunately, what happens is when a network gets very firmly established, and the problem is there's just not enough money in comics to put a lot of this oversight in place, even with the big publishers. The money's all with the parent company and the merchandising and everything else. And so these groups get established, and they bring in their friends. And, of course, their friends think the way they think. So a lot of people immediately jump to a liberal conservative kind of bend. That's more of a consequence rather than the subject of it. It's what people like, what people do, and that's the problem. And I think you see a lot of creators find themselves outside. Like you said, it's a shame because you find yourself, you need work. You need to be able to do things. So you're going to go where people are going to give you work. And if you land in a place that like Vox, then suddenly now you're even more ostracized. So it's just, you dig that hole, but the business is making you dig that hole. And I think it's terrible. It's definitely in the creative field, you always had a more kind of liberal leaning bend than a conservative bend. Always. That's just true of almost every creative industry. But it definitely took on a far more toxic tone 2-3 years ago with Trump and with the kind of polarization of everything that goes on. It's really, really harsh now. And people are not afraid of speaking openly in the comic business of saying, you align with what I think and what my network thinks, or you don't get a job. And we're in a rough spot.
Yeah, I don't see it going forward. I don't see how things are going to change unless the entire tone of the comic industry changes. And I don't see that happening unless there's bankruptcies and, worse sales than what we're seeing now. It would have to probably get another 30-40% worse before we saw a sea change in the comic industry.
You're right, because it all comes down to money. There's just not enough money. I mean, when one of the MCU movies takes, basically makes more than the entire publishing arm for the year and then some, or it's just not enough. So if the problem is if it makes less money with the big two, they're just going to immediately flip to licensing. You're going to see all those properties just handed out to various companies to do what they want to do, and the comic companies and the attitudes are going to get worse because now it's with an even smaller company that will just entrench more. One way it changes is if it starts making actually more money that suddenly there's something to lose. That's one way to look at it. But we're in this for a while. We're in this for at least another 10 years of this kind of mentality.
One thing I think that the bean counters and the executives have noticed is how much some of these Indiegogo books are drawing. Like Van Sciver's book almost bringing $1 million. $750,000 by Zach. You've got
even that kid on Instagram that did that Icarus book.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Well,
And the thing that's nuts with Ethan Van Sciver is the fact that he can get anyone's book funded. Like anytime he just promotes a book, it gets funded in like 2 hours. Like his draw is insane right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of like the kingmaker right now as far as alternative comics goes, and that for good or ill, if you like that or not, he does have that influence, and it's on a certain level. I think that there's certain people that are in the comics industry who are noticing that and thinking, how do we get that money? How do we get in on that? And the problem is you can't unless you change the fundamentals of how DC operates and how Marvel operates, because those people are gone. They're not buying your properties anymore. So,
yeah, the Indiegogo stuff, it's interesting because it cuts in two ways. So from the higher ups, from the people more high up at the publisher level, even at the rate of money, I mean, it is a lot of money. I'm not dismissing that at all, but it still doesn't move the needle for them. Even $1 million is small at the top. But what I think is very relevant, and what I think you do see, is everybody who's not DC, Marvel, and Image, all the smaller publishers, have to understand that the Indiegogo kind of community and the ability to get books funded and all the rest, you could make an argument that if people got serious and they installed, whatever, Ethan teams up with a handful of people who are going to more solidify the whole business, he would be the number 4. He could be the number 4 company, and that group could be the number 4 thing really quickly, even though it's a completely different model. And so I would strongly bet that somebody, not an IDW, but one of these companies, because IDW is out desperately trying to get funding. And so you look at their whole business mechanics, I think one of these companies at some point is going to wake up and go, you know what I could do? I could offer Ethan a bunch of money and bring in some of these people under my umbrella and have these comics and just live a little bit easier than I'm living now near bankruptcy. And I'd be shocked if that didn't happen at some point in the near future. So the problem with the crowdfunding stuff is that it's good, but it's very reliant on somebody manually coming in like an Ethan and starting to tweet and work the model. It needs to evolve to this next step where there's more of a reliable kind of publisher and distribution system that doesn't rely on a person engaging in social media. It's got to take another step up. And I would be shocked if people weren't talking about that.
Well, I think that, like what Doc just said, Dynamite, apparently does not care what the SJW mob says. They're going to work with Ethan. So, at least they're going to sell him books that he can put his cover on. So,
it's
Doc, you're real quiet.
Sorry, son of a bitch. It's every time I'm on my phone.
Yeah, your volume is really, really, really low. But anyway.
So we're talking about what, comic skaters getting books at an actual publisher?
Well,
Go ahead.
Just the whole crowdfunding thing. I mean, where does that go next? And how is it going to change the industry? And where are things going in the next 5 to 10 years? I think in terms of the big publishers, you've got a bunch of people entrenched there, and that's not changing. And so that's just going to continue to move along. And they're neither making enough money or too little money to really cause DC or Marvel to step in and change. And Image's model is actually probably the healthiest. He's just doing its thing. It's just they sell what they have, and it is what it is. So where does the whole Indiegogo independent kind of funding thing sit ultimately in the future?
Yeah, I know Doc. He has a theory. He's talked with a little bit. Is your mic okay now?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you a little bit.
Somebody's clicking.
If I'm still too quiet, I'll switch back over to my laptop.
No, go ahead, man. Tell them about your theory, your dynamite theory.
Well, I mean, it's already pretty obvious that Ethan's going to be publishing Cyberfrog through Dynamite. He already posted a mock-up cover, and it literally has Dynamite's trade dress, except for instead of Dynamite, it says publisher. It has their design for where their UPC is. It has their corner box. It has everything except for the actual words Dynamite is on there. He's absolutely publishing Cyberfrog through Dynamite. It's just a question of when. He's going to split it up into individual issues, and it's probably going to be 4-issue miniseries, and it'll come out in stores. And they'll see whether or not that there's a translation between the Indiegogo sales and direct market at that point. That's what you're going to end up seeing. And if it works, great. If it fails miserably,
if it works, then eventually we'll see people like, we'll eventually see people like Jawbreakers. We'll see Jawbreakers at Dynamite. We'll see. That might be a while because DNC is kind of so polarizing.
Yeah.
But we'll see others. We'll see like Night Shift at Dynamite. And stuff like that. So that could become the Comicsgate label of sorts in all but name. And then you'll have, the weaponized left, just going in whole hog, trying to tear Dynamite down. So.
Yeah, it's just, I think they just got to find out if it's worth it or not, which I guess that's what the Cyberpunk experiment will be, assuming if he goes through Dynamite. See, because I wonder how much crossover there is, how many people just in a comic shop would pick that up, because a lot of the people buying it, yes, there are people who are like, oh, I'm sick of like SJW comics, I want to buy a good comic, but then a huge part of that audience is just, oh, I want to send a message like an FU to DC or Marvel, so I'm going to buy this book that I've been told I'm not allowed to buy. And so I wonder how well that would translate in comic shops and how many people would actually pick that up. I feel like obviously Ethan would have the best chance over like Jawbreakers or anything like that, but I hope it sells well. But I don't know how it would do in a comic shop. Man, people are dropping like flies right now.
Yeah. Oh wow, we're really hurting.
Everyone's just leaving.
Yeah, I was sitting here actually looking at something else and listening, but yeah, I mean, I think that Ethan, if anybody can do it, it's Ethan, because he, since he was the Halo cover artist for DC, for so long. But there is an incredible amount of talent that's collected over into the Comicsgate era. I mean, you've got Don DeLay. I love his Brutus work. I think that he can bring a great amount of talent with him. As far as being able to contribute, as far as bring his own book. The problem is there's a dearth of writers.
Agreed.
In this dearth of writers, the lack of writers, on the Comicsgate side, that it kind of puts me in mind of Image of the 1990s. Yep. Like, oh, we've got all these incredible artists, and not a single one of them can write a damn storyline to save their lives, except for McFarlane.
Yeah.
So where's that talent going to come from the story angle? You know,
That's true.
who's going to bring that in? So they're going to have to bring in people who know how to set pacing, who know how to establish characters, who know how to build up, you know, a plot and that extends longer than, you know, one graphic novel. So, you know, to build a universe and to do world building, they're going to have somebody in that has quality of, you know, work at world building. And is this going to be, you know, are all the Comicsgate comics going to be in the same world? You know, you can't have Cyberfrog really being as part of Jawbreakers because the human race is dead functionally with Cyberfrog. So what else? Who else is going to be in that universe? You know, is that going to just be its own thing? So, you know, just kind of wondering where is this going? So
Yeah, because right now they just have with Chuck Dixon, who's obviously the best writer over there, and then
right.
but aside from that, yeah, you just have a bunch of really good artists. But I have no clue how Ethan is as a writer. His art is amazing, but who knows how he is as a writer? We'll see how this goes. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of writing talent right now, and it's just going off of pretty pictures right now. So hopefully there gets some more writing talent to go along with it. But yeah, I think that analogy works well, being like how Image was when they started out. Just a lot of really great artists, but no one that could really write. I think the power play would to have Chuck Dixon and Ethan Van Sciver team up. I think that would be the ultimate power play. Like, I think that would draw on a lot of people, and I think that could be a really good book, whatever they decide on. I think that'd be a really cool collaboration.
Yeah, you'd bring in like even if it could be like Chuck Dixon, Christopher Priest, you know, kind of working hand in hand there in building the mythos, I guess you could say, and then adding the books to it as it goes along. So
yeah, and you could get a lot of mainstream fans in with Ethan and Dixon on there because they're not just like big in the Comicsgate sector; they're just big overall. You get a lot of just normal people that read comics are like, oh, I know those guys. I like both of those guys. They're talented. I'll read this book. I could see a lot of that happening versus to where you have a bunch of people that no one's ever really heard of that maybe they don't want to take a chance on with some other Comicsgate books. But yeah, it's just, it'll be interesting to see how it goes over the next couple of years.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see how, you know, I think that within its limited scope and it's certain ways that Dynamite would be successful if they did this. You know, I think they would be more successful than they are now because, you know, you'd be pulling in like the 20, 30,000, 40,000 people that are Comicsgate aligned, you know, that would be the regular buyers of these books. Yeah. And I think that's definitely enough to keep, you know, a dozen titles running.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about, you know, 20,000, you know, $50,000 to $60,000 an issue, you know, if half those people bought on the regular. So, you know, that's enough. That's definitely enough, you know, but it's not enough to really, you know, assault Marvel and DC's hegemony.
Yeah, I think it all depends on if Dynamite can weather the storm or not. Because as soon as they say they're publishing any of these books, that they already got so much backlash from just Ethan's covers. Nevertheless, like actually publishing the book, if they can weather the storm, not pull like an Antarctic press and just bow out at the first sign of any type of controversy, if they can actually like weather the storm, then that would be interesting to see how it goes. It's just if they can hold on during that, not just be like, okay, we're getting too much of a shitstorm right now. We're just gonna bow out of this.
Well, that's why the DNC. That's why the DNC lawsuit is so important, because if he absolutely kicks Wade's ass and Wade loses everything, you know, like, oh my God, you know, not only did DNC win, not only did Zach win, but he got a $5 million decision. You know, it'd be like, holy balls, you know, we need to back off. We can't deal. You know, we can't. You know, tortious interference is serious. We can't do this, you know. So
well, I think the reason why they did the cover deal with Ethan was to test it. Ethan and Zach and everybody else have all said, look, it's 12 Psychos on Twitter, let it go for 3 days and it'll blow over. And so they tested it on something small with the cover deal. It was 12 psychos on Twitter that threw a fit for 3 days, and then it went away. And that's they were right. And I think Dynamite watched what happened. They saw, okay, it's a half dozen it's a dozen psychos on Twitter. They get mad about it for 3 days, and then it just goes away. They move on to something else to get mad about. We can ignore them. And I think they saw that, and the only way that it would change anything in the future is if next time they don't go away. But they always go away because they always get distracted by the next shiny object, and the next shiny object is something else to get offended by.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a limited amount of time in the day to be offended by all these things,
and they have the attention span of a millennial.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're a goldfish, so
Yes.
they're a goldfish with one fin swimming around in a circle, and whatever they see, oh god, that's awful, and they go, oh, that's awful, and then they finally get around to the other thing, but they, since there are only like a dozen of them, they don't have enough coverage, and furiously typing on their keyboard all day long, they're still not going to be able to generate enough outrage to make any real difference. So
yeah, and that's pretty much it. They tested it out with Ethan with the covers, and I think they realized, there's nothing. This just goes away. These idiots just go away. Their attention span is way too short. They run out of things to get offended by, and they start just making themselves look stupid. And when they do, when even they realize they're reaching for things to get mad about, that's when they stop and they move to something else.
I mean,
and
the worst thing that comic skaters do is they give these people oxygen. They give them attention.
Oh my gosh!
Just ignore these little pricks. Stop paying attention to the Mags Didio, not Didio, but Mags and Ren and all these morons out there. Just don't pay attention to them.
Yeah,
let them blather. Let them explode. And sooner or later they're just going to run out of energy like a toddler and just fall, and collapse and fall asleep.
Yeah, that was like half of those people that are like, I guess, the anti-comics gate like brigade or whatever, I never would have heard of if it weren't for all these people I follow like retweeting or quote tweeting them and being like, look at this person. Like, no one cares about them. You're giving them a spotlight. I don't get that whole thing. It's just, it boosts both their numbers. I guess that's why, because it's like it's a mutual thing to where, you're giving that person attention, but also your video gets more views because you're causing drama with this person. It's just, I think it'd be better just leave them alone instead of giving them attention. But that's
it's
how
like
it goes.
Ethan even admitted it. He's like, I'm monetizing these morons.
Yep.
It's like, oh yeah, that's all well and good. You made $20,000 on a stream, reading out super chats, and that's fine. You do you, man. But you're fueling these morons, and you're making their voices louder, and you're making the comic industry worse.
Yeah, so, I hate that anyone in the comic industry kowtows to them though, because half of these, or over half these people, don't even read comics. They're just upset about something. Like when the whole Tales of Darth Vader Tales comic, like when issue 3 of that caused a big controversy because Vader killed a woman. Everyone complaining about that had never intended to pick up that issue in the first place. But they were mad about what happened in a Darth Vader comic that they never planned on reading in the first place. And it's just so stupid.
Yeah, they're not customers. These are activists. Activists are not customers. So just ignore the activists and sell to people that have money. Yep. And the problem is the comic industry has run off a large chunk of those 30 to 50-year-old, Gen Xers that have money now, but they've been run off. So in exchange for these loud, noisy, stupid millennials who are broke.
Yeah,
they just sit on Twitter all day.
I see that all the time in the comments of my videos of people are like, I haven't read comics in like a decade. I got chased off. What should I read now? Like, I kind of want to get back into it. Or even David from the guy that used to own Second Print Comics, he was talking about how DC Rebirth like saved a shop because it had so many old readers coming back. They're like, oh, Green Arrow and Black Canary are a thing again. Wally's back. These are like the comics I grew up with. I'm happy about this. And then DC's just ruined the goodwill they built with that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You know, another thing that I've noticed, I know Doc, I saw him getting into it with some people, is every time like a creator comes out and it's kind of like, well, you know, I might want to do some creator-owned work, you know, maybe crowdfund, but it's not the right time. It feels like everyone just jumps on top of them and be like, you got to do it now, you know, look at this guy, rather than being like, oh yeah, when it's your time, you know, we're going to support you. You think it's people are a little bit too aggressive to try and get other pros to maybe come and join the side,
like what's happening with Brett Booth right now?
Yeah,
Brett Booth's like,
exactly.
I'm just waiting, and people are just like, no, you need to do it now before the SJWs ruin you or whatever. And it's like, just let him do his thing. I love Brett Booth too. He's like he's another guy like Christopher Priest, where he's like a free thinker. He just says what he wants. He doesn't necessarily agree with everything I do, but he's not just like clung to an ideology or anything like that. So I really enjoy, like, his Twitter is a breath of fresh air. I really like Brett Booth. I wish he was on more books. It sucks that he's not on more books. I feel like him and Kenneth Rockefort are two guys that have just gotten screwed with the writers they've been teamed up with. They're just fantastic artists that are always the most like mediocre writers. That sucks so bad with Kenneth Rockefort. I love his art, but he's always stuck with like Scott Lobdell or someone, and he doesn't get to shine because of the writers he sucked with.
Yeah. Hey, it's true. I sorry, I was having issues coming in and out, but listening to the conversation, and I think it's refreshing. You guys are all, I completely agree with it, all of you. It drives me nuts when these people who have the only influence they have is the influence that the group is giving them, and to kind of signal boost. I mean, somebody said there's a definite profit mechanic there where, you know, you complain about them and half the side loves the complaining, but then it boosts the other side up, and then they get a complaint back and they go back and forth. I mean, there's money in all of it. So I get it. Like a good portion of the money, a lot of the YouTubers getting like Zach and Ethan, those guys are getting is because of this outrage. So they kind of need these villains to poke against to get that. Fine. But it is just ultimately kind of trash conversation, because these people do not have any real influence. We're handing it to them, and then it reflects in the comics. You have these networks develop, and they're, you know, Brett Booth just posted a second ago, you know, their comic industry isn't making as much money. What do? You hire newer, cheaper people, and you don't give work to the Brett Booths and the other people who have established rates. And these newer people are most of the time just small unknowns who got some recognition on Twitter because we gave it to them. So it just feeds the machine, and we got to just jump off of that at some point soon, because it's wrecking comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw who was it? Aaron Lopresti today. He sent out a tweet, was like, "Hey, I just got the rights back to Garbage Man." I've never even heard that book, but I really liked his work on Damage. I was like, "Hey, man, if you decide to, you know, do this through a smaller publisher, through crowdfunding, let me know. You know, I'd love to support your book. I think you're doing great work." But far too many people they're really aggressive in trying to like push people a certain direction.
Oh yeah, it's very much you're either with me or you're against me, and like people take it way too personally on anything. Like Brett Booth's just waiting, and everyone's getting so upset about him. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know, because he got Bloodshot coming up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It actually could be a really big thing because, you know, the movie's coming out.
I hope it's good. I also like how he's not rushing anything to get into like a Cyberfrog situation where we've been waiting for that for how long? Like over a year. Like that was part of what his reasoning he was talking about. He's like, I don't want to announce it and then sit on it for 2 years. He's like, I want to do it when it's ready and I can release it in like a couple months.
Well, the release was good. Cyberfrog release was going to be in November, and it got pushed back. Everybody's like, and I can understand people are upset. They want their comic. They promised in November. December, he pushed it back to June of 2019. You know, so it's not anything really new as far as, oh my God, he's late every single month. No, he said back in December it was going to be coming out in June of 2019. And as far as we know, it's done. You know, the colorist has it in hand, and everything's done. The lettering's done. Everything. The colorist has it, and now we're going to get it in a month. So
Yeah.
if he misses that date, we can all go in. We can all go in and kick his ass. But until then, I'm just going to sit back and say, okay, we've got till the end of June. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
I think. By the way, I suspect. No, I suspect strongly. By the way, I think that date will miss, just based on it's got to go to the colorist and other things. I'm sure it will. But I think ultimately he's got people who want that issue and want they're bought into him. So I think the delay is. I mean, people are going to put up with it if they've been on board to this time. I do like, though, Booths and some of the other artists that are coming in, learning from these experiences. It is more complicated. I mean, they've all said it is more complicated than you think. And so getting more of the comic in hand before you start the promotion I think is just smart. So I hope people learn from that and do more of that. And that's great. And they should just, I think it's smart business to get more in hand. But at the end of the day, you can't you want Cyberfrog, you want that issue, fine. If it's going to be late, either bail in or bail out. If you're tired of it, bail out. Just don't make a lot of drama of it. Otherwise, you're on board for the ride and just get it. I mean, one way or the other.
All right, so there's one last topic. You guys didn't talk about Spawn yet, right?
Nope.
All right, so the big the big announcement this week from Todd McFarlane was Greg Capullo's coming back to do the art. He's doing some of the interior art. Scott Snyder's joining the creative team, the two regular artists, and I believe Jim Lee's going to be a part of the project, like in an undefined role. What are your guys' thoughts on Spawn? Are you really excited about this, Pele?
Oh my God! Well, my opinions on Spawn. He's one of my favorite characters. I've been a Spawn reader since issue 1, and I'm one of those weirdos that was actually buying it around issue 170, 180, 190. So those issues that are almost impossible to find now. But I'm stoked. I really am. The direction this is taking, the art looks amazing. The storyline is really gone. It's really notched up to a fever's pitch. So if anybody, anybody who is not reading Spawn right now, and you're in comics, what the hell are you waiting for? This is must see comics. Every time an issue drops, it's practically an event. So it's a top 6 seller in my shop. So and the variant covers are great. I know people are down on variants, everything like that, but where else can you get virgin variant covers that are print to demand? Nobody else is doing that. So you have to get like a 1 in 250 variant, and have to blow somebody at Diamond to get one, whereas you can just order as many as you want from Image, from Diamond. You can order as many as you want for that issue. But I'm really excited about it. 300 looks like it's going to be monumental in the comic industry. It's going to be one of the comics of the decade, and going forward, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is just going to gain so much steam that it's going to be one of those perennial powerhouses again, like it was back in the 90s. So
I know, Dylan, you said you're not much of a Spawn reader, but you remember the cartoon. So Spawn, he dropped the price down to $3. I think it was 8 issues ago or something like that. So I started picking up. It's really cool. Are you interested in the Spawn 300 and the cool creative team that he put together?
The creative team, yeah, sounds awesome. I might pick it up. The thing with Spawn for me was always the fact that to get the omnibus, it's so expensive. I've always wanted to start from the beginning and just get down, because I'm more of a trade / hardcover guy than a floppies. I get my weekly comics, but if I can get something in trade versus floppies, I'll always get it in trade. But yeah, it's always been like so expensive. It's like $50 or something like that, or even more if you want to get like just the first couple volumes in an omnibus, and it's kind of nuts. But yeah, the creative team sounds awesome, so I might pick it up. If they have a copy there, I'll pick it up. The creative team sounds amazing.
Yeah, so they're doing some like black and white, like Greg Capullo, like artwork covers where it sounds like they're doing some really cool stuff. They're doing, it's a lot more intimate than what DC or Marvel 1000 are doing, where it's kind of a team that's more personal to the story, I think. Perch,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Perch, are you still there? What are
Yeah.
your customers thinking? Are they excited about Spawn 300?
Yeah, I think the announcements have got a lot of pulls. Spawn is not a top seller in my shop, but it could be. I think I was thinking about this. Image doesn't promote Spawn. It gets very little love in terms of the fact that it's still out there. I've had customers come in and say, "Oh, I didn't realize this is still getting published," and it's a nature of kind of how the book is promoted. It definitely does not get kind of the attention it deserves. Hopefully with 300, you start seeing some material come up. I think they'll want to bank off Snyder's name a little bit and Capullo coming back and McFarlane drawing. I'm curious what plays out after this and what the creative team looks like going forward and everything else. But it could be a top book. It could. It's got the right elements, but it always seems like the company, the publisher, is confused about that it's still going. Who's it with? Is he pursuing the movie deal? It just all the outside stuff. They could do a lot more to get it in front of the shops, and I'll sell a lot of this issue for sure. The creative team and kind of the announcements put it back on people's radar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think a lot of it comes down to I personally got very interested in Spawn, so I told my people, I told my employees, I said, push it. Everybody who's buying superhero comics now, if you think that they'd be interested in Spawn, push it. Tell them, get them on board with it. Same thing I did with Immortal Hulk and other titles, and it's just kind of like maneuvering the conversation to, are you buying Spawn? Are you buying Spawn? Why aren't you buying Spawn? You should be buying Spawn. Spawn is really good. And just kind of get it and planting that seed. It's $3. It's $2.99. Everybody else is drilling you for $4 an issue. It's $3.
Yeah.
And
I've put it up on
is amazing. So
yeah, I've put it up on the counter at times. You have the two comics that can promote up front, and I've done that from time to time. It is an antidote. I always bring it up, and it's like a few of the other Image books too. But I bring it up with the people who grumble about the $4. Like, no, there actually are some comics that are still cheaper. Here you go. I've got that. I do good business with Alterna that way. Honestly, that Alterna is a wonderful antidote to this seems expensive. Well, here's a line over here, and I almost immediately get a pickup. But Spawn would really benefit from Image coming out and putting just some promotion in the books, because I've had fans of Saga in particular go to Spawn who did not know about Spawn before and feel like the book was in the same family. I'm not sure exactly how, but they do see some similarities there, and they like it. So I think it's kind of money on the table that Image misses out on, honestly.
It's kind of the dark side of Saga, I guess. I guess you could kind of look at it, or Saga is the light side of Spawn. I don't know. It's
I'm not sure how they connected, but it whatever. It's free money. I think at these times, man, take the money.
Absolutely.
So Doc, I know you're swore off the new comics right now. Are you going to make an exception for Spawn 300?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it because I decided recently that I'm going. The only new books I'm buying is from Alterna. I'm just can continue buying Alterna and put all of my money towards back issues and primarily one or two Grail books that I'm looking for.
We're gonna be at breakfast dinner. Are you gonna be done soon?
Hey Dylan, can you mute?
Yeah, sorry about that.
But no, I'm kind of torn on it. I want to get it, but at the same time, I just don't know if I care without X-Men. I just don't care. And so I'm still 50-50. I'm probably not going to pre-order it, but I may I may buy it off the shelf when it comes in.
Awesome. So it sounds like Dylan might have to dip out here soon. I just wanted to hear your thoughts and talk a little bit about Superman before you head out. Are you happy with Superman? Action Comics, I guess, is the better version of the book. Is that doing it for you?
No, it's been terrible. So Bendis came on with Man of Steel, and Man of Steel had some bright spots. It ended pretty poorly, but it showed some promise. Like, okay, you could do a decent Superman. And then ever since, it's been very Bendis pace. It's just been so slow. Like, maybe if you read and trade, it could be a decent read, but reading issue to issue is terrible because there's no payoff yet. And then he doesn't know what he wants to do with Rag al Zar. Rag al Zar has been just an awful villain, and he's just been trying to make him this big guy that, like, from the first issue of Man of Steel to now, we're like 20 issues in, if you include Man of Steel with Superman, we're like 20 or so issues in, and we still don't know why Rag al Zar like destroyed Krypton or how he did it. Where that's happened so long ago, that was revealed, and he's just been teasing the whole time. And the thing that gets me the most right now is how Clark is getting cucked by Superman to the public eye. I don't get why he did that. I don't get why that's a storyline. It doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be a storyline, but that's how it is. Like, I don't get why he thought that was good. I will say the one compliment I can give Bendis is when Superman's on his own, the way he writes just purely Superman, not Clark or his world, but Superman isn't half bad. Like, the way he writes Superman is okay. The way he thinks in battles and stuff is interesting, and Ivan Reis is great. But when he introduces Lois or Jimmy or any other villains, it's terrible, and he doesn't understand Superman. And I want to break from it so bad, but we still got Bendis on Superman, and it's rough right now. I wish we could get someone else on here. At least we're getting that Batman Superman book. Honestly, the best Superman book out right now is Justice League from Scott Snyder. What him and George Jimenez have been doing with Superman has been really interesting, even though he only gets like 6 pages per book. What Scott Snyder has been doing with Justice League has been really interesting, and to see how Superman's going to play and how Batman's sort of the villain-ish right now, and Superman's going to come out of that and I guess try to stop him. That's been really interesting. So the best Superman book that's why I give advice to other Superman fans. If you want a good Superman book, read Justice League. Don't read Superman or Action Comics. I'm going to wait till see how this Rag al Zar thing wraps up, and then once that wraps up, I'm probably going to drop the book. But Leviathan, I'll say, is interesting.
So you're the world's biggest Superman fan, and you're on the point where you're considering dropping it.
Yep, I'm just waiting to see how it all ties up with Rag al Zar. And then if that's just terrible, I'm going to drop it because there's no point in me wasting money on books that I hate right now. But I'll probably read Leviathan, though, because that's actually been interesting. Have you guys read anything with Leviathan about how all the agencies in DC, like Spiral, are just going to be like destroyed by some random whatever? That's kind of an interesting story. I'll give Bendis that. I'm excited for that, but everything with Superman now.
I don't know if it's really that interesting or if it's just been shit for so long that anything, anything that breaks through the malaise is intriguing. So, I kind of like, in perspective, sort of step back and think, okay, in any other time during the industry, this would be a, okay idea. This would be okay. But now it seems like, oh my God, this looks really good because everything else looks like shit. So,
Bendis does. I mean, his claim to fame is he does these kind of secret backstory spy. Something's going on in the background, kind of low action, a lot of kind of drama tension. That's been his claim to fame with New Avengers. It feels like a very similar play here in the lead up to. I mean, it's funny because it feels very, very similar to the notes to the lead up to Secret Invasion and how they were handling it in New Avengers at the time. And it feels like that's the play we're going to get here. Unfortunately, he doesn't stick the ending. Whenever it gets back to the heroes, he never sticks the ending well.
No, he doesn't. You're right.
I just want someone else on Superman, because we had it so good with Rebirth from having Jurgens and Tomasi on there and Gleason. It was so good, and then Bendis comes in and he ignores all the continuity along with it too, like what happened with Jor-El. Jor-El is a villain now because Dr. Manhattan plucked him out of Krypton. And is like, okay, he survived Krypton. And so now he sees everything as like just being bad, and he's a bad guy. At least that's how Jurgens wrote it. And then he comes into Bendis's run, and he's like, hey, I want to take John, so Superman's son, I want to take him on a space adventure, make him a man. And they're like, okay, that's fine. Even though he was just certified as a villain, he was established as a villain, but Bendis ignores that. And then also he aged up John, which is one of the worst decisions he could have made. That ruins the whole John Damian dynamic now as well. Like, I love Jonathan Kent. He was a great addition to the Superman family, and he's just ruined that. Now he's 17 years old because he got thrown into like the Earth 2 universe for a minute, and so that aged him up like 6 years or whatever. It's just not good decisions.
I know Pele, he has no more orders for Superman. He still has some for Action Comics. Perch, what's the response been, to your customers? Do you still have people with Superman in their pools?
No, yes, I have some, but it's one of the lower selling books. But we were talking about Tom King and Batman. It's funny because there's all this anger about Tom King, and people really have been over it. But I mean, I sell maybe a third of the Tom King of Batman with Superman, maybe, and it's dropped since Rebirth quite a bit. It's at least gone in half, and people are not. The storyline's not sticking, and kind of as it's spreading, it feels like the effect has now kind of morphed into Wonder Woman and Aquaman. I mean, Aquaman was selling better before Kelly Sue came on, and Wonder Woman was selling better. All these titles were selling better. And as this I keep using the same words, this network has come in, people who are, Bendis, friends of Bendis, because both, Kelly Sue and Wilson definitely are in that network. It's deteriorating the titles. I see like a quick 25% drop and going down to a half drop with polls. And it's not just the comics going off the shelves. When it hits the polls, that's people, like Dylan, who are fans and are going, I'm opting out at this point. And that's the most dangerous kind of message a comic store can get. But that's
like go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say my dad had been reading Superman unbroken, buying and reading Superman since 1964. And actually since the late 50s, but I'm talking about just, every single issue, unbroken run since 1964 through the Bronze Age, through the quirky mullet 80s, and into the mullet 90s, and all the way New 52, all of this. He dropped Superman 3 months ago, and that just, I don't know anybody who's a bigger fan of Superman than my dad. And for him to just drop the title, really brought it to focus for me. And then when he was the last subscriber, he was the last person to have it on their pull list at my shop. And then none. Everybody had left Superman. And I was like, wow. So I was like, well, what's the point of me ordering it? So I didn't order it. And I've not ordered it since. So,
wow. It's not going well.
Well, and he's getting a higher visibility. He's getting a Leviathan event. It sounds like there's loose plans in the future that he's actually going to get Batman. Like, what's it going to take for DC Comics to get the message that he is not connecting with their audience?
I don't know what it's going to take for them to realize he's not the Bendis of 10 years ago. He doesn't have that draw. No one really cares about Bendis anymore like they used to. I feel like DC thinks they still got prime Bendis, like this guy that has this big draw and can bring in new readers and can bring back old readers as well. But I think they're just misreading it to where no one cares anymore. Like, Bendis isn't what he once was. No one really cares about what Bendis is doing right now. There was some interest because, Bendis at DC. And then when people saw, it's still modern Bendis. He's not reformed now. He's not back to where he was when he was writing Daredevil. He's not this great writer again. He's still modern Bendis. I think people woke up to that pretty fast and just no one cares. But I don't know what it's going to take for DC to realize it. Maybe just because it's been so long with bad sales.
It's going to be too late because part of the arrangement of Bendis, they marketed Bendis is coming, but the whole business arrangement for bringing him in is coming directly from kind of the editors themselves. It wasn't just Bendis. He was making a promise that he was going to bring in a lot of the talent that Marvel had as part of him moving over, and we've seen that. He's brought over artists, he's brought over other writers, he's brought over some editorial, he's brought over kind of his group, his network that have followed him. And if you're DC and you're consistently losing to Marvel in dollar and unit sales, and you're trying to move the needle, you got Rebirth and it caused a bump, but then you saw yourself slide back down. That probably sounded like a smart plan. We're going to bring in Bendis and all the top kind of name writers from Marvel. But what people are forgetting is that Marvel had built to this stage with their characters and their runs and these things, and that's why they were successful. It did not have as much to do with Bendis's network as they thought. But now they're all in, and more are still coming. So it's going to be a long time before you can turn that train around. And it's. I mean, I think it's ultimately going to hurt DC pretty bad.
They can always stop doing it to themselves. Okay, you made a deal with Bendis that all of his friends are going to come over. You cannot honor that, and the worst that happens is he leaves. Oh, wow. All of the bad things that have happened stop happening. All the bad that he's brought with him stops being, harmful to you. You can always stop. Mm-hmm. But we're in 2019 comics, so you fail upward and you promote people that do poorly.
Yeah, you fake.
So I don't understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird because if we talked about Batman, you got King, Bendis is on Superman, Kelly Sue DeConnick is on Aquaman, and G. Willow Wilson's on Wonder Woman. Those are the four most important titles because of, Aquaman was $1 billion movie. And they put four writers that are just killing reader enthusiasm. People are holding on to Batman because they like the character, but they don't like the writing for the most part. People are holding on to Superman because they like the character, but they hate the direction. And it's happened with all the characters. But they had this great stable of actual good writers like Tomasi, Jurgens, Venditti. But they're all getting pushed to the side. Is that all Didio and Lee, or is there more politics going on than that? Do you have any information on that, Perch?
Yeah, I mean, there's always politics, but I think the company's in kind of an odd place right now where they have the acquisition. They've got their parent. They're trying to wrestle with that. There's a lot of people coming in and out, and there's the threat of more cost cutting coming in. So I think people are really nervous about their jobs and kind of what it's going to look like. And so in those situations in companies, people tend to group together more, so that network kind of gets reinforced a lot. And so you've got a company in flux. You have people coming in and out, and it's a messy time. You have a lot of new Bendis faces coming into the company, and I think that the most likely scenarios you're going to see some big writers kind of finish their runs and move out, like Snyder. I think Snyder starting to dip out and doing his own thing is going to happen. Maybe Tomasi, maybe some of these other people. It's going to give them a vehicle out. So you're going to see over the next 2 years people come in and out of the company. And it's I think DC will look a lot, at least staff-wise, like Marvel did about 2 years ago. It's going to start to resemble that pretty firmly, and then we'll see where the big DC names ultimately land. So,
Man, it just doesn't sound promising at all. Marvel writers from 2 years ago coming into DC.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, Marvel Now. That was so wonderful. Well, actually, that was before then, but still. Yeah.
There's some decent stuff with Marvel Now, but a lot of it was rough.
There's a lot of it is, they can stop. The industry can stop doing itself, inflicting this upon themselves very quickly. By when you take a step one direction and it doesn't work, you don't keep going in that direction.
Yeah, how do they ignore
DC?
How do they ignore that Immortal Hulk is selling, is almost outselling Batman now? Or it is outselling it in many months.
It did in April. How are they ignoring that?
It's like, wow, okay.
Well, one answer there is that you've got the writer is not I would say not a trusted writer in the sense that he does things, but he doesn't always bring numbers. So I think it's caught a lot of people by surprise. I think a number of people are waiting to see if Immortal Hulk is going to stay at that level or not. But it is, I mean, I like it. Nice selling title. I'm not going to knock it.
Isn't a big part of Immortal Hulk sales speculators, though? At least I know at my comic shop, that's what he was talking about. I was talking to the guy that runs the comic shop I go to, and he was saying that he has like 25 people that have Batman in their pool, 25 people that have Immortal Hulk in their pool. But those 25 people are buying 2 issues each of Immortal Hulk because they're speculating on like the variants and like the 125s and everything, and like all these different issues spiking because a lot of them have already.
Well, it's like here's something that I noticed too with Immortal Hulk. I do have that. I do have speculators that are buying, and they're actually paying full ratio or more for the 1 in 25s. So when you can get $35 for a 1 in 25, you're doing pretty good. And but something else I've noticed about Immortal Hulk that I don't notice with almost any other title now, except for a few, is people. Immortal Hulk comes out, people come in. I wish I'd taken a picture of it. 4 people had pulled issues of Immortal Hulk off the shelf and were all standing there reading it at the same time within 30-40 minutes of the store opening. And I was like, wow, that to me was, I've not seen that in so long. They were like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Yeah. So that type of excitement is what's pushed, I think, as well as, I guess there are people buying multiple copies, but I don't think speculators have driven up Immortal Hulk to 60,000 units on their own, have pushed, Immortal Hulk up to 65,000 units an issue.
No, there are real readers there. There are people who like it, and it seems like Al Ewing's finally found the book that's going to connect in a bigger way and actually get the numbers. And I think that there are a lot of people, it's not the same thing as speculators, a lot of people who believe that this story is going somewhere bigger. I think that is, and with its sales, it definitely will now. I think you'll see Ewing, based in the Marvel way, you're going to see Ewing get an event of some kind here in the next year. Because they're going to want to, and it will tip things over because it always does. But he's attracted real readers, and this title is hit the right chords at the right time. So it's now the trick is, can it be replicated in another title? What will they do with Ewing going forward?
Well, they're giving him Marvel 1000, and because that's still, he's frameworking that and writing most of it, and it's obviously because it's a giant, they're retconning in some, fucking new cosmic, eternity mask thing. It's obviously that he's going to end up doing something with that. It's kind of the same way that, because, come on, look, Marvel 1000 is just Marvel Legacy 2.0. And they did that with Marvel Legacy with their Avengers 1 million DC thing, and Jason Aaron's still been kind of playing around with that in the background of Avengers. I'm not reading War of Realms, so I don't know if that connects at all to this, but and this adding this Eternity Mask thing and kind of retconning into Marvel's continuity, it's obviously an attempt to set up something for later. So he's going to end up doing something with some sort of Eternity Mask, whatever, they're going to be attempting to replicate it, his Immortal Hulk success on that.
Yeah, and Al Ewing, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you have Cates and Ewing, basically where they go, Marvel goes. And if, I think that going forward on this, if they can get those two, and I think it's going to be the plan, is getting those two together to merge their ideas, where you have, like you've got the symbiote situation, you've got, the God of the symbiotes, and you've got, how can you bring this in together with, with the Immortal Hulk and the one below all, along with all, and I think that adding all that into the continuity and pushing it together and bringing a kind of extension to the continuity is where they're heading. So
I'm interested to see what Al Ewing does, since he's got like 10 books for whatever they're doing in August, where all the Marvel, like 2 weeks ago, all the Marvel creators tweeted out like their the creators on like these different books. Ewing was attached to like 10 of them.
Yeah, that's Marvel 1000.
Yeah. Oh, that's Marvel 1000?
Yeah, they're all doing one page of the story.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
got so much of that.
He does.
Yeah,
He's also the architect of the story. He's the guy who's going to be
Oh, okay.
putting all the little pages together. And he did state that there's going to be some element or whatever the MacGuffin is in the book is kind of his idea, and however it comes out, he's going to take it and run with it. So it is going to be an Al Ewing kind of vehicle, I think.
Mm-hmm. They're definitely giving him a test drive with such a high profile book. He's framing the whole story, and then everyone else is going to fill it in with him doing most of the
I
pages.
think that one of my employees, who's like the big guru as far as tying all the plot lines together and seeing how everything connects and everything. He's autistic. He's kind of like my keeper of the mythos, I guess you could say. And he handles my back issue bins. But he's like, well, don't you see? Null is the agent of the one below all. He's the avatar of the one below all. I'm like, what? Really? He's like, oh yeah. Yeah, they're directly connected at the hip. One is the physical extension of the other. And I'm like, oh. So, going forward, if they do that and they do it well, and they show how it's all been connected for the last, since Legacy began, then I think it could be really good. So,
all right, so guys, I have a Fluffy baby. Looks like Dylan jumped out as well. So I got to. We're gonna wrap it up now. So first, if you're still here, do you have any recommendations for this week's comic books?
Well, I think Doomsday Clock is going to sell well. I'll just say the things that everybody thinks. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Heroes in Crisis lands. Doomsday Clock, War of the Realms is DOA and in my store, but the Spider-Man book's selling really well. I think this Hunted storyline's landed with a lot of people who remember Craven's Last Hunt and some of that stuff. So I think those are, on either side, that's pretty good. No, I think there are good comics to find out there, but I would encourage, get that relationship going with your comic shop owner. Don't be the quiet person who just comes in and doesn't buy anything or doesn't say anything. Rather just tries to figure it out. Get that relationship, see what they think. Most of the time they really want to talk to you. They're bored. They're dealing with the same kind of stuff. So that's my advice. But anyway, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thanks,
Birch.
man. Also, so Doc, what are your recommendations this week?
Buy back issues. I don't care what you're buying, just buy back issues. No. You know what? I'm not going to talk about the one book I'm going to buy because, well, every time I do that, other people start buying it and the price goes up. So I'm going to wait until after I've bought. But you know what I would recommend? Go try to find some floppies of the McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man, McFarlane Spider-Man series. I mean, most of them, the Amazing Spider-Man, you'll pay a little bit more for the Spider-Man, adjectiveless series. You can find them relatively cheap, and they're a good read. Go pick them up if you're a Spider-Man fan. Also, you know what? The current run, I'm going to echo what Perch said. I actually broke down and read a few issues of Nick Spencer's Spider-Man, and I mean, Nick Spencer's a guy I want to throw into the sun, and it's actually good, and I hate it because it's good. So, yeah, I don't want to say buy that, but fuck, buy that.
Awesome. So, Pele, what are you guys recommending at the store this week?
Well, I'm actually kind of pushed at the store. They're pushing War of the Realms because we've got issues we need to sell.
Oh, absolutely.
So, it's like, okay, I didn't even order heavy, and I've got back stock. So it's like, yeah, we got to sell this here. This is our issue of the week. I'm sorry. You know, it's almost like I apologize for doing this, but yeah, Amazing Spider-Man's great. Go get your back issues in second prints, third prints, whatever of Immortal Hulk. Get into that series if you haven't, and personally, Spawn. I'm gonna repeat it every single week. Go back to issue 291. Start from there. Go get those back issues of that and catch up, because 300 I think is going to blow everybody's head off. So
Awesome. So my recommendation this week is there's nothing really this week that I think is great. Maybe Detective Tom Comics, but it's really light week. So Old Man Hawkeye, Dylan from Real Comic Book Gamer turned me on to the series. It was excellent. I believe both issues, or both are, there's 2 trades out of all 12 issues. It's really good. I have a baby to burp, so I got to get out here. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be in the chat. I've been doing daddy duty and thinking critical duty at the same time. Salamat Po, and I'm out.
Later.
later. Just say late.